That's right. We're doing a rookie mock draft. Your boy's doing a rookie mock draft and really a top 15 overall ranking. It's a live premiere inside a live stream because I'm live right now. After I play this 20-minute video of me breaking down the top 15 overall rookies, after playing this video, your boy Smitty, who's live right now, Taya first in the building, Travis second in the building, appreciate you, hit that thumbs up on your way in the door. Here comes this video that you've been waiting for. My personal rookie mock draft, my personal top 15 rookies. Once it's done, I'm coming back and I'll be live here answering your phone calls, taking your questions, and doing it live style. The Fantasy Football Show begins right now.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios, it's the Fantasy Football Show. Live! Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern.
It's mock draft time. It's top 12, top 15 rookie running back ranking time. I'm going to break this down from a dynasty perspective for sure, but I'm also going to talk about these rookies from a redraft perspective. So if you're watching this video and you don't play dynasty, or if you do and you just want also an angle of redraft perspective, I've got you covered. We're breaking down my top 12 rookies and more. We'll dip into the who missed the cut range and territory. We're doing all of that and more. The Fantasy Football Show. It begins right now.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty. Take a lap.
Not only is Bijan the number one rookie, and definitely number one rookie running back, he's my number one running back in Dynasty Fantasy Football, period. Rookies, veterans, it doesn't matter. He's number one. Maybe if my Dynasty startup is a 3 mandatory wide receiver league and a 2 running back, I might consider JJ or Ja'Marr Chase. You get longevity. Wide receivers have a longer shelf life. It makes sense. I mean, you can argue wide receiver JJ or Chase over Bijan running back. But you can easily argue Bijan Robinson number 1 overall in Dynasty startups. And in redraft, this guy's like my number 4 or 5 overall.
Smitty, you take him over CMC in a redraft?
If I had 2 leagues side by side, redraft, number 4 overall pick, or let's call it number 3. I've got the number 3 overall pick in side by side redraft leagues. Ja'Marr Chase and JJ go 1 and 2 in both of those leagues. I'm on the clock in both of those leagues. I'm looking at it. I might take CMC in one league. This is redraft, mind you, and Bijan in the other league. I would divide it up in redraft. In Dynasty, it's Bijan, but that might be bold to some people when they say, oh, why would you take Bijan number 4? I'm trying my very best to get Bijan at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but I'm not scared. I'm not like Peter over here. Petrified Peter. He's scared to take Bijan at number 4 or 5. Why? I don't know. Because he's a monster. He's the next LT. He's the next Barkley. He's Barkley meets LaDainian Tomlinson. This guy is going to be an absolute monster. And his landing spot in Atlanta is fantastic. Atlanta runs the ball well, very proven to run the ball well. The offense is loaded from top to bottom with weaponry. Maybe Ritter isn't what we want, but he's in an amazing system that is going to run the ball like crazy and run it effectively. Bijan Robinson could lead the NFL in rushing as a rookie. Bijan Robinson could have 12 to 15 touchdowns total as a rookie. Bijan Robinson could pull in 45 plus passes as a rookie. Bijan Robinson's an absolute monster.
Let's go, mashed potatoes!
But we're talking rookie running back rankings right here, so I'll back it down a little bit and just say that this is like, what are we talking about? There's nothing to argue here. He's number 1 overall. Doesn't matter the format. Doesn't matter if it's Superflex. And I'll touch on Superflex as we go to try and give you an idea of where I might change my tune in a Superflex. But overall, we're going to rank these guys in a 1 QB setting. My number 2, this is where it gets really interesting, right, is Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is my clear-cut number 2 overall rookie, my clear-cut number 2 overall rookie running back. For a lot of different reasons, we loved his skill set walking into the NFL draft. Clear as day, number 2 overall running back. We love Charbonnet near as much to rank him number 2. You know that. You know why we no longer can put Charbonnet number 2. We'll get into Charbonnet in a minute, and maybe why Charbonnet has some hidden value. But Gibbs is the clear number 2 running back. In fact, there's a tier break here. A clear as day tier break between these 2 running backs and the remainder of the running backs. These guys can be top 5 to 10 running backs. Well, Bijan's top 1 to 5. Not top 5, top 1 to 5. Put some respect on Bijan's name.
Hi, My name is Bijan Robinson. I like long walks on the beach. And, well, I also like scoring.
Gibbs is top 5 to 10. Little bit of overlap there. 1 to 5, 5 to 10. No disrespect to Gibbs. No, hey, he can't ever be near what Bijan can be. That's why the 1 to 5, 5 to 10 overlap. But this guy does live in the 5 to 10 range. People are worried about his 199-pound frame. I'm not. I think he gains a good 5-6 pounds in the NFL. I think he gains a good 4 to 6 pounds of NFL weight with NFL trainers and NFL facilities and NFL food. Living at the workout facility, he is a full-time professional athlete. He will put on weight. He will get better at every facet of his game. And for people that say, oh, Smitty, they drafted him into a crowded situation. Detroit doesn't know what they're doing. This team spent a top 12 overall pick on him. And they talked about, little birdies have whispered in my ear, they would have taken him 6. They almost took him at number 6 overall. Why? That's crazy. Doesn't matter if it's crazy. The point I'm trying to emphasize is that they believe in him so much, they almost spent a top 6 overall pick on him. Call him crazy all you want, but the conviction's there. That's what we're debating right now. Don't get confused and go down a different rabbit hole and start arguing whether Gibbs should have been top 6. That is completely irrelevant. A sidebar, the conviction is there. Taking a player at 6 to 12, and they committed to 12, and they were happy about it. They couldn't believe he fell to 12. Does that sound like a team that isn't going to use this said player at a full-time capacity? Even though they brought in Montgomery and they pay him pretty well, are they going to give Gibbs what they gave Swift? No. So will Monty do what Jamal did? No, because the workload divide is going to be much more in favor of giving Gibbs a big chunk of work. Even if Monty gets 10 carries a game, the Lions will run the ball enough to consider that being no harm to Gibbs' value. Can Monty run for 10, 11 touchdowns on the ground? Yeah. That's totally baked into what's going on here in Detroit. That leaves a handful of rushing touchdowns to be handed to Gibbs. That could give Gibbs 4 or 5 touchdowns on the ground inside the 10-yard line. Just saying, hey, let's only give 10 or 11 to Monty. We'll give 4 or 5 to Gibbs. He's going to score a couple breakaway touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs could score 7 to 10 touchdowns without even affecting Monty's goal line work, if Monty's even given the goal line work. And he probably will be given the goal line work, but will he even stay healthy? Look how bad this situation looked on draft day to a lot of people. Swift is there. Monty's there. They traded Swift away. The situation improved in a snap. Monty's no guarantee to stay healthy. Gibbs would go to the moon if Monty got hurt. Even with a healthy Monty, Gibbs could still live on the moon because he doesn't need all those carries. We need somebody to take on 10, 11 carries a game. Gibbs can't run for 1,400, 1,500 yards. He's an Alvin Kamara hybrid. You want Gibbs running for maybe 1,000 yards max, 1,000 even, and he pulls in 650, 700 through the air. You want this guy getting 800 and 900. Some years you're going to want it completely divided, half receiving yards, half rushing yards. He's that kind of player. 10 plus touchdown player. Eventually 65 plus reception player. Never going to be your league leader on the ground, 1,400, 1,500 rushing yards. You don't want that from him. He'll break. He is 199 pounds. 199 pounds doesn't scare me from being Alvin Kamara, but he can't be Derrick Henry. But it doesn't matter. We know that. The Lions understand that. That's why the Lions do have David Montgomery. But make no mistake about it, David Montgomery does not eliminate Gibbs from being an absolute fantasy football monster. David Montgomery scares me zero in terms of long-term value. David Montgomery scares me very little in terms of now 2023 value in vulturing. Gibbs will get his. The Lions run a ton. And don't think for a second Gibbs is going to get a limited timeshare role like Swift had. Does this war room look like the kind of war room that's not excited about using Jahmyr Gibbs?
Look at the GM right there. That's the GM right there.
That's the GM right there.
They are so pumped
that they landed this kid. Does that look like a war room? The Lions war room. The moment they drafted Gibbs, does that look like a war room that is not going to use the man they just spent a number 12 overall draft pick on? Draft capital is everything. And again, they almost used the number 6 overall pick on him. That's the reaction of, oh my God, he fell. Gibbs to the moon. Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs both could be top 10 running backs as rookies. Bijan could be number 1 overall. overall. This is where it gets really interesting. We've got the top two guys clear as day. Look at that tier break. That tier break does feel like it's legitimate because now we got JSN. We don't really know what to make of JSN. As depressed as we are about Charbonnet not being a starter in the NFL right now, he is a home run hitter, and we're going to get to him in a minute. Quentin Johnston, not yet. If this was a super flex, we might start considering these two gentlemen right here, the top two quarterbacks from a fantasy football perspective, Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson. So if you're in a super flex, I definitely could understand this and this. It would make a lot of sense, but we are going to rank this from a 1 QB perspective. So we're going to put these guys right here. I'm not going to lie. I go back and forth on these two gentlemen right here, Zay Flowers and JSN, from a 2023 perspective and a future perspective, because I feel like Zay landed in the best spot. I really do, because he's the number one wide receiver for his team almost immediately. Maybe it takes him some time to climb up. Who knows? But he is in a spot where the roadblocks are very, very minimal for him to become the number one wide receiver. Now, JSN doesn't land in a location where they're just the best passing offense in the NFL. You could say the difference between JSN's landing spot and Addison's landing spot is that Cousins throws enough that that number two wide receiver is going to be relevant. They can't ever be an elite wide receiver one in fantasy, but if JSN was locked into the number two role in Seattle in a lesser passing attack, maybe Addison's got a better spot, right? The difference is Addison cannot overtake JJ. He'll never overtake JJ, ever. He can never be the number one wide receiver for his team unless JJ got hurt. JSN could overtake DK. I'm not saying it'll be an easy task. I'm not saying it's 100% locked to happen, but this kid could become the number one wide receiver on his team, and DK could fall into that number two role, get you 1,100 yards and like 5 to 7 touchdowns every year, be pretty decent, but never be a wide receiver one again. JSN could take away DK's ability to ever be a wide receiver one in fantasy again. You can't say that about Addison. That's why JSN, even in a lesser passing attack, ranks higher than Addison in a better passing attack. Not to mention, we don't know where the Vikings are going to be 2 years from now. I like Zay Flowers. I go back and forth on this one, back and forth. I'm telling you, one moment I love Flowers, the next moment I love JSN. I'm going to put Zay Flowers at the number 3 spot because I had him as my number 1 ranked wide receiver coming out of January just based on skill alone. And for that reason, it makes me feel like, okay, he got the best landing spot in terms of getting all the volume. Do I feel like it would have been better long-term for Zay to go to the Chargers? Yeah. Are there better situations for Zay to really get the most out of his ability? Yeah. But there weren't a lot of amazing landing spots. Just because Zay went to a location where he's the number 1 wide receiver, something we cannot say about JSN, something we cannot say about Addison, something we can't even say about Quentin Johnston right now. Maybe later, but right now, no. None of these wide receivers in the top 4, JSN, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, not one of them, but Zay Flowers landed in a spot where he could be considered the number 1 wide receiver probably from day 1. So for that reason alone, Zay does have potentially the best landing spot of the landing spots that were handed out to those top 4 wide receivers. It doesn't mean it's the best spot that could have happened, that could have unfolded, but he's given an opportunity to consume wide receiver 1 volume and target share. That's why that tier break is so very strong. It's a big divide between these two guys on the left and everybody else on this right side. I think JSN should go number 4, and I can understand why people might say, hey, Smitty, why isn't he number 3? He should be number 3. He's the better route runner. He's an amazing talent. But as mentioned, he's got DK Metcalf sitting in front of him. Not the most impossible obstacle to unseat as the number 1 wide receiver. I've made that abundantly clear. I think JSN could, not easily, but it's in the realm of possibility. Not shocked if it happens. This guy climbing into the number 1 spot, pushing DK into the permanent wide receiver 2 role, never making him a wide receiver 1 ever again in fantasy. He was already borderline 12, 11, 13 anyway. Some people didn't even have him in their top 12. DK is not an unmovable object in that offense. Jackson Smith and Jigba could easily nudge him aside. I think if there was a better quarterback situation there, because I'm not super high on Geno for the long term, I might have JSN over Zay, even though Zay has a more clear initial path to the lineup or to the number 1 role. Again, can't emphasize enough that if this is super flex, we probably would be putting these quarterbacks in the 3 and 4 spot, at least these two, Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young, because I don't feel so strongly about this wide receiver class in general. I think a lot of people have made that point all offseason long. This is not the sophomore wide receiver class loaded with Watson and London and Garrett Wilson and all those guys is a lot lesser. And then they got bad landing spots aside from Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is the only one. They got the pretty darn good landing spot. Nobody else did. It would be different if JSN had that quarterback with DK. DK's a problem. He's in the way, but there's a great quarterback. No. I mean, Geno is okay. And I don't feel like JSN's in the best situation he could have been in. Not even close. And it sucks. But it is what it is. We adjust and adapt. This is where I might be different than most analysts. Most analysts are going to say, hey, we got to go with the guy that's got the clear path to the lineup. I don't think like that. In a 1 QB format, the guy that has the most bang for the buck, the guy I'm willing to take a risk on, is still a guy not in a good situation. I think you know who I'm talking about. This might be early for a lot of you. And I know that you're going to say, Smitty,
if you like Charbonnet this high, you must not like Kenneth Walker anymore.
Not true. My optimism for standalone value for Zach Charbonnet can be independent from my still strong belief in Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet are a handcuff made in heaven now. As much as we want to get upset about Charbonnet falling into a bad spot where he's not gifted the number 1 running back role, he can win leagues if he gets into lineups. He can be the Alexander Madison of years past, but on steroids, ×2, ×4. This guy walks you into a championship if he gets into the lineup and starts games like even 5 or 6 games. At the end of a year, he could walk you into a championship.
But Smitty, if he's that good and you like him that much, you can't like Kenneth Walker.
Yes, I can. And yes, I will. Doesn't matter. Just because Charbonnet's that good doesn't mean Walker isn't that good or even better. Stop trying to act like two things can't exist at the same time or conflict. Charbonnet standalone is a league winner. And I want him anywhere in this 5 to 8 range where other people are drafting wide receivers that are supposed to be good and supposed to go ahead of these players like Charbonnet. I could care less about a Jordan Addison who's in a number 2 wide receiver role behind JJ when you can hand me a league winner. I'll go get a Hyatt or a Mingo, who I'm going to talk about in a minute, Jonathan Mingo, or a Tank Dell later on in the draft instead of going Addison here, and I'll take my chances with Charbonnet. Charbonnet's so good, he is a must-cuff for Kenneth Walker owners. If you draft Kenny Walker from this moment moving forward, you need to draft Zach Charbonnet. There's no question about it. There's no discussion. You have to do it. Know his ADP. In a startup draft, Charbonnet looks like he's going around 9, 10, 11. You just got to make that call when you're on the clock, when you should strike. How quickly is he floating up the ADP rank? Can you get away with pushing it to round 11, or do you got to strike at the top of 10? You're going to have to make that decision for yourself. Based on your draft format, based on where you're drafting, ESPN could be completely different than another platform. That's a redraft conversation right there. I'm mixing that in too. From a rookie-only perspective, again, I'd rather take Charbonnet than take Addison. You can get mad at me all you want if you're an Addison believer and you already got your invested draft capital and you're going to say, he's going to be good in Minnesota, Smitty.
Just because the best wide receiver in the league is there doesn't mean he can't become something special.
I don't know from this dynasty conversation perspective, because we are back in rookie-only mode. I don't know what's going to happen with Kirk Cousins in the next couple of years. I don't know what's going to happen with that offense. Jordan Addison's a smaller guy, which isn't a problem because I love Zay Flowers, but there's a lot of obstacles for him. Zay Flowers, being a smaller guy, if he was in a bad spot, it would become a problem. You got a lot of obstacles you got to overcome. Zay Flowers landed in a spot where he can be the number 1 wide receiver. He landed in an offense where they already had a smaller Hollywood Brown thrive. We already know that a smaller wide receiver in that offense could work. Even though it's going to be a different offense, it's still an offense that has Lamar Jackson throwing the football to the wide receiver. So a lot of obstacles have been avoided already, something we can't 100% say about Jordan Addison. Some say Jordan Addison could never be a number 1 wide receiver anyway, on any team. How is he going to do that in Minnesota? All I see when I see Jordan Addison in Minnesota is at most a low-end wide receiver 2 or a glorified high wide receiver 3 in fantasy. I don't see anything bigger than that. Is he going to be better than Osborne would have been? Yeah. Is he going to be better than Thielen would have been if Thielen walked into that Minnesota offense one more year? Probably. But how much better than those guys? Not a ton better. And Osborne's still there. Hawkinson is still there. You can't just say, oh, the Minnesota Vikings throw X number of passes. Well, they've got other weapons. It's not just JJ and this wide receiver, Addison. It's going to be Hawkinson, Osborne, and a whole bunch more. In a compartmentalized rookie-only draft, I'm drafting one guy. I'm taking Charbonnet setting. He wins me a league if he gets in there. I take him. If I've got Kenneth Walker, I especially take him. If I don't have Kenneth Walker, I'm still taking him, and I'm stealing him away from every panicked Kenneth Walker owner out there. And maybe me getting Charbonnet at number 5 overall sends a message to the Kenneth Walker owner, and now Kenneth Walker will be tradable. Now I can go acquire Kenneth Walker because I can hold this over that owner's head and say, you know what? One of us should own the two of them, and I'm not relinquishing Zach Charbonnet. So, in some contexts, I'm going to go after Kenneth Walker after I acquire Zach Charbonnet. Too bold, too high, too bad. This next one's going to piss off a lot of people. My number 6 overall rookie is a wide receiver that a lot of us didn't really think we'd be ranking as high as we were ranking him, but he needed situation, and boy, did he get it. This is the next potential. If we're lucky, it's not a lock, it's not a guarantee, it's the upside's there for it. Maybe the next potential A.J. Brown. And his name is Jonathan Mingo, Carolina Panther wide receiver. And I know a lot of people are going to say, wait a minute, Smitty.
Are you seriously ranking Jonathan Mingo ahead of Jordan Addison? Are you out of your mind, Smitty?
I am. I did. Jonathan Mingo is a very talented wide receiver, 6'2", 220 pounds, out of Mississippi, plays very much like an A.J. Brown meets Deebo Samuel, could be used on the ground, is walking into a clearly wide open wide receiver room that, yeah, maybe has an old Adam Thielen in there to command it at the onset. But Mingo is walking into an opportunity where he could be the number 1 wide receiver by midseason, if not sooner, and he gets to build rapport with his brand new quarterback, this man right here in Bryce Young, a future, I think, top 6 NFL quarterback. A future top 6 to 7 NFL quarterback, a future top 6 to 7 fantasy football quarterback. And Bryce Young developing early on with Jonathan Mingo makes me really excited. There's a lot to get excited about. Now, I want to make sure everybody understands a couple things. Where I rank these guys means something. It means this is what I believe will end up happening. To the best of my ability, I'm trying to, ahead of the curve, rank where these guys are going to kind of be at the end of the year or what kind of value they're going to earn back for you across their ADP. Do I suggest you take Jonathan Mingo any higher than you have to? No. There's an advantage of getting Charbonnet later, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to pull that off. There's an advantage of getting Jonathan Mingo later, and I'm very confident you're going to pull that one off. I don't think you got to take him at number 6, but I'm going to rank him number 6 anyway, because that's how we roll. This version of A.J. Brown in the making, Jonathan Mingo, is going to climb ranking boards very quickly. Right now, it's bold that he's at number 6. Later on, I don't know if it will be. So do what you want with that information. That's my number 6 overall wide receiver. This guy had 247 yards and 2 touchdowns in a single game last year. I really love his upside and hidden value. Jonathan Mingo to the moon.
M-I-N-G-O, and Mingo was his name all.
Either get on board or get off. We're probably going to put Jordan Addison at number 7, but again, I have my reservations about how high he can climb. Can he become an elite prospect? I don't know. I don't think so. Not in that situation, but can he become a lesser version of T. Higgins? I suppose so, but I don't think that Kirk Cousins will be relevant long enough to make this a dynasty gem. We don't know who's going to be quarterbacking in Minnesota 3 years from now. Maybe Kirk Cousins does return for another year. Maybe they extend him. Maybe Kirk Cousins is relevant for another 2 or 3 years. We don't really know. But this guy wasn't handed a situation that's going to make him a T. Higgins. He doesn't have Joseph Cigar Smoking Burrow throwing to him, which is one of those situations where people are ranking T. Higgins as their number 1 wide receiver, which I'm uncomfortable with, honestly. But people are doing it because Joe Burrow is there throwing the football to T. Higgins. To me, Addison doesn't have that luxury. Therefore, how can he rank any higher than number 7 overall. And quite honestly, I find myself wondering if 7's too high. And I could see myself liking these other guys I'm about to rank next higher than Addison given the cost of entry. So hear what I'm saying. I understand Addison's got to rank around this territory at some point, but am I more willing to trade down to get one of these other players I'm about to talk about, like Hyatt, or a player like Tank Dell in the second round, or maybe Quentin Johnston climbs up, who's probably, I would say, next. Johnston might have a little more appeal than, let's say, a Jordan Addison. In time, he could. Because right now Mike Williams is there. Right now Keenan Allen is in front of him. I don't think Johnston has a clearer path to 2023 targets than Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison probably has a clearer path to that number 2 Viking wide receiver role than Quentin Johnston does a wide receiver role other than the number 3 wide receiver role, which could be rewarding. But right now, Addison has more of a lock on targets, I think, than Quentin Johnston. In time, that can change if Johnston gets better in certain aspects of his game. I could see him climbing above Addison in my rankings, but these are 2 guys that almost by default we squeeze in. I don't feel great about ranking them here. I'll be honest with you. The draft capital of these next handful of guys just seems a whole lot better. I'm going to go ahead and put Bryce Young right here. Even in a 1 QB league, he deserves to be in this territory. In a 2 QB league, again, he would probably go number 3 overall on my rankings in a super flex format. But in a 1 QB format, I think I start ranking Young around the 9-10 range. I think I start looking at Dalton Kincaid around this 10 territory. I think Joshua Downs over in Indy is a fantastic player to start talking about in this 10-11 territory. I'm going to start mashing a lot of people together here because we are getting to a very, very tough spot where it's hard to really rank these guys at this point. Jalen Hyatt's a fantastic 10, 11, 12 overall player in New York. That's a great landing spot for him, so I'm going to put him right around this territory. I might move him around at the end, but I'm just trying to give you a sense of how even it is at this point in the draft. We got a guy in Chase Brown that might become a starter in Cincinnati in no time. We got another quick young running back in A-Chain that's going to the Miami Dolphins. Maybe he's the starter before midseason or maybe in week 1. I tend to think they're going to roll with Wilson or Mostert to start the year, but will either of those guys be healthy by midseason? A-Chain is a sleeping giant. We'll put him at this like 12 territory, Chase around this 12 territory. These are like your number 12, 13, 14 overall monsters right here. Tank Dell's going to go in round 2. No one's going to take Tank Dell in round 1, but I want people to know about him. I want people to understand that he has every ability to become the number 8, number 7, number 9 overall rookie in this draft class, if not higher, and he needs to be talked about. He needs respect. And this guy, he might be smaller, but in Houston, he could carve out a role and catch footballs from this guy right here, Stroud. Levis and Stroud, I'm going to leave off on my top 10, top 12 rankings. They're going to sit over here. Tank Dell, again, is exciting, but in the second round. Anthony Richardson needs to be talked about in that 10, 11, 12 range. Hendon Hooker is more of a second round guy, but a nice little sleeper that you put, I think, before Levis, honestly. Or right with Levis. Mayer landed in a horrible spot. I love Mayer. Mayer's still in the conversation of like, let's say 12 or 13. We'll put him right here, but his spot is bad. He's got Jimmy Garoppolo as his quarterback, and I don't feel like that offense or that team is going to turn things around anytime soon. Horrible landing spot for Mayer. Very disappointed where he landed. Dalton Kincaid in Buffalo is a fantastic landing spot. Those are my top 9 right there. If I had to organize this 10, 11, 12 territory, which I wanted to give you a sense that all these guys have the ability to rank 10, 11, 12. Because if I just would have put a guy at 10, a guy at 11, a guy at 12 without arguing all of this, you're going to just say, well, what about so-and-so, Smitty?
I can't believe you left off my favorite player, Smitty.
All these guys are capable of being 10, 11, 12. If I had to narrow it down to a number of guys, I would probably say A-Chain, Chase Brown, if I'm thinking RB, are in this 11 and 12 range with Kincaid sitting at 10. If I'm thinking more quarterback driven, of course, Anthony Richardson at 10, 11 would be fantastic. If I'm thinking wide receiver, Hyatt would be phenomenal right here. Downs would be great, maybe more in this 11, 12 range with Hyatt being 10, 11 and Kincaid still being 10, 11. I think Chase and A-Chain are probably more around 12, 13, 14. Those could be home runs from that territory, your 2.1 smash. Hey, Smitty, who do I take at 2.1? I don't really know, Bob. But you know what? We just did a mock draft, and it looks like Joshua Downs and A-Chain and potentially Chase Brown, they all fall to 11, 12, 13, 14 overall, and they're all smashes. Hyatt, smash it, 11, 12, 13, 14 overall. Kincaid probably won't fall on the regular, so I would put him almost cemented into that 10. This is my 2023 rookie ranking video, my mock draft, if you will, my top 12, my top 15, my top 18, really. I hit it from a Superflex perspective, a Dynasty perspective, a redraft perspective, and I think it gave you a sense of how I view this rookie class.
Hi, my name is Bijan Robinson. I like long walks on the beach. And, well, I also like scoring.
We're back live. Nobody go anywhere yet. I just saw 5 people drop off of the 111 of you watching right now. This is a live show. We're going into live Q&A mode right now to talk about all these rookies, so don't go anywhere. The phone lines are going to be opening here in 1 second. I'm going to open them up. But I wanted to start off by saying, I know that these are going to, whenever you do a top 12, top 15, especially top 15, and even more so if you do something around like the top 25 rankings, you're going to get bickering, and it's totally natural. And everybody's going to feel one way about Quentin Johnston. And people are going to feel one way about Addison. And people are going to feel one way about Joshua Downs. And that's going to have a tendency. File on in, guys. We're doing a Q&A live right here. Appreciate you watching that 20-minute rookie ranking / mock draft video. Taya first in the building. Travis Rose second. James, appreciate you. I see all of you in here. But one thing you got to keep in mind when we go over rookie rankings and rookie analysis is that there are going to be so many busts here. And to have any sort of definitive, cemented in answer about a player that you have no idea, like Quentin Johnston, for example. And this goes for me too on the flip side. I have no idea how this is going to unfold. I have no clue how healthy Mike Williams will stay. I have no ability to yet know how this new offense with Moore and Herbert is going to adapt and evolve. And if Keenan Allen and Mike Williams both go down, Quentin Johnston is walking into an amazing situation. A crack shot says, come on, man, you know QJ thing. I don't know what that means, crack shot. But what I'm describing right now is for exactly you. So just hang tight and listen. Everybody's going to have different perspectives on players like Quentin Johnston, on Addison. And we've seen guys like Pittman go in the 2nd and 3rd round last year. There's players that I took really high that didn't work out as well. It's not like I just went 100% and my batting average is 100%. Not saying that. My whole point here is to sit here and suggest that Michael Pittman's going to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. In hindsight, everybody drafting Pittman in the 3rd round, 2nd round, late 2nd round he went. What's his face? The Steelers guy. I always blank on him because I don't even care. Ron, who's your guy? I'm blanking out on his name. Johnson. It's like you have these moments where you feel like this guy's going to explode, but you don't. There's so many variables involved. And so when someone says something like, hey, Smitty, how do you have Quentin Johnston not in your top 5 or 6? How do you not have Hyatt not in your top 5 or 6? How are you leaving Joshua Downs outside of your top 8? Like, Joshua Downs is in probably a better long-term situation than some of the guys we're ranking higher than him. Hyatt's maybe in a better spot than everybody but maybe Zay Flowers. So, not Pickens. What's his name? I was blanking out on. I'm so tired. What's his freaking face? I'm totally blanking on his name. No one's going to help me with it. It's not Pickens. You know I love Pickens. What is his name? I'm going to have to look it up. I'm totally blanking on his name right now. He's so irrelevant to me that I'm blanking on his name. Deontay Johnson. There you go. Deontay Johnson. I was blanking out of his first name. He's so irrelevant to me. Deontay Johnson. Everybody drafted Deontay in like the third and fourth round. How crazy was I to be down on Deontay? How crazy was I to tell you Michael Pittman was going to bust on people who drafted him in the third round expecting the world? Quentin Johnston's no lock. He's absolutely no lock. Zay Flowers is no lock. What we need to understand here is this rookie wide receiver class is not the sophomores. It's not the sophomores at all. It's not even close to the sophomore wide receiver group. So how people are up in arms about Addison being ranked too low or too high somewhere, like, I can't get mad at anybody for having Addison number 4. I won't. I refuse to get mad at anybody's rankings. First of all, they could be right. Anybody could be right. But the amount of crazy questions and oh my gods, and this one dude that came in and said this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Oh, he's gone. That's fine. You don't like the show, you can leave. But this guy's gone. How in the hell does anybody know that Quentin Johnston's going to get his shot? First of all, he feels like a one-trick pony. He plays soft. He's not that quick and agile for his size and speed and his quickness. He should be faster for how quick, how the position of the wide receiver position. You need to be a certain speed. You need to play at a certain level of speed. This guy runs like a snail to me. And I'm not saying that Quentin Johnston can't evolve at the NFL level, but how anybody's shocked that I don't have him in my top 6 or 7? Like, you're talking about a whole bunch of players that are very deserving to be argued there. I could argue with ease that Hyatt and Josh Downs will both be better than Quentin Johnston. You could also argue that Quentin Johnston could be better than every wide receiver in this draft class. It's certainly debatable. But Quentin Johnston's shown me nothing to make me think he's some guy that you're scratching your head because he's ranked 8 instead of 5. I just don't see how Quentin Johnston comes out like this monster that that they're missing on. And JSN, as much as we like JSN, he landed in quite arguably one of the most confusing spots. He's got DK, who I think could be overtaken for the number 1 wide receiver role, but you have Geno Smith tossing the rock to him, which is no long-term solution. So the only player that comes out of this, the only wide receivers that come out of this rookie draft with a lot of clarity for their future and who's throwing them the football are the guys like Downs and the guys like Hyatt. Hyatt has Danny Dimes, and I don't think that's the best solution or situation, but I love Dable. And I have faith that whatever happens, Dable is getting a quarterback in there to command that ship in a way that I think Hyatt's gonna thrive. I think Hyatt's in a good spot. I think Mingo's in probably one of the best spots. And if somebody wanted Mingo over Quentin Johnston, I have no problem with that. If somebody wants Quentin Johnston over Mingo, I have no problem with that either. I think the point is you're allowed to have opinions with all the moving parts going on coming out of a rookie draft, and to act like something is crazy when it's ranked differently than you rank it is funny to me. That's the only thing. I just want to say that this does create a lot of people to go in some sort of downward spiral of commentary and negativity, and we all need to step back and say to each other, look, you got different rankings. That's normal. That's going to happen, and that's okay. I have no problem with someone having Quentin Johnston as the number 3 overall rookie, but everybody needs to relax on everybody else's rankings and just treat each other with respect in the chat, because this is when things get a little wild. That's the only reason I'm stepping up to say something right now, because I have a feeling there's a little bit of wildness going on, because I noticed it in the live chat during the video. A couple people screaming at each other, and it's like, you don't know. No one knows. These are rookies. These are rookies that landed, most of them, in bad spots, these wide receivers. So no one knows. Stop acting like you know. I don't know. I'm admitting I don't know. I can only make my best educated guess. And guess what? I'm going to be wrong on a lot of these, or some of these at least. And maybe Mingo doesn't work out. Maybe Mingo becomes the best wide receiver in this entire draft class. Maybe he becomes a nothing burger. It could happen. It could happen. And so I just wanted to address that before anybody came in here and started going at anybody. I don't mind so much you go at me, but when everybody starts going at each other, to defend their player that they like, that they've already drafted in, is a pretty obvious red flag that you've already invested in somebody when you come in here swinging. How could you not have him that high? That's the best player ever. You don't know. You don't know. Phone lines are open, dial it.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Phone lines are open. This one should be interesting. It always is. It always is when you bring in the rankings. When you bring in the rankings, the bickering comes out. It's natural. Hit me with your questions. Let's go. Greg says, what does Greg say? Let's see. Greg says, again, you were saying no one knows, but you can tell us how you come to these conclusions. Is it really just your feelings? Do you watch film, look at analytics, breakout age, historical data? I mean, don't you watch the show, Greg? Or is this your first time here? If it is, that's fine. Welcome. But, I mean, I think I make it pretty evident that I'm not just going with my feelings or throwing a dart at the board. Like, there's an all-encompassing process to my daily investing of time, Greg. I sit here daily. This is what I do as a profession. So when you ask me, what do I do to come to these conclusions? Do I pick one of these things? No, Greg, I do them all. I do them all, Greg. I live, eat, and breathe football analysis and have been scouting players coming out of the draft when you were in diapers. And that's not a knock on you, Greg. I'm just saying I've been literally doing this since you were in diapers from a scouting perspective for over 20 plus years. So there is a lot that goes into it. There is. This is not me just throwing a dart at the board. This is not me just saying, hey, I kind of have a weird feeling here. This is an all-encompassing process. That's what I'm talking about, bro. All right, I saw the phone line ringing. There's some kind of issue with it maybe again. I don't know. Let's test out the phone line again. Appreciate you, Greg. That's why I prefaced it, Greg. I said, is this your first time? If it is, that's great. And I appreciate you, Greg, coming in the door. Those are just the recent... I appreciate you. George from the Bay. Let's see if the phone line's working. I hope it is. George, are you there?
Smitty, what up?
Phone lines aren't working, George. Hold on. I might have to reinstall something. George, come back. Let me close this out and reinstall the phone line. Ron says, yo, phone not working. Yeah, I'm going to get it going, Ron. Hang out. Hang tight real quick. Let me just reinstall it real quick. Shouldn't take very long, to be honest. It's pretty quick. Yeah, I mean, guys, this is an evolving process too. Rankings are never, they're subjective and they're ever changing. And anybody that stays, firm on something, it doesn't so-called waver. You don't want to trust anybody that's cranking out those rankings anyway. And Greg, I appreciate you, and that's why I prefaced, is this your first time here? We got a lot of people in here that are just coming in with the hate today. So your boy Smitty's a little short, as you can tell, but it's because I've been dealing with a lot of negativity today, especially when you do rankings. You come out with stuff after the NFL draft. Your boy's got thick skin, but I am a human being as well, and it gets a little annoying when people, come at you left and right about this and that and how garbage this is. So, am I a little short today? A little bit. Usually I don't let it bother me. I really don't. But a lot of hours staying awake, like I couldn't even remember. I was like, what's his name? Johnson? What's his name? John. I'm so tired right now. I'm on like 3 hours sleep. Your boy is working as hard as he can for everybody in here. And so that's just my natural reaction right now, is that, no one's going to like your rankings. No one's going to like your rankings. No one's going to like your rankings from a grand scale. Someone's going to have a problem with something, and that's the business you choose. That's the business I chose to be in. That's I got to be okay with that, and I totally am. But it's just sometimes we're human beings. You have one of those days at work where you're just a little annoyed by all of the craziness going on. Let me see if I can open the phone line again real quickly. And then you got technical difficulties like this. And it's like the phone line's always giving me problems. And it's not anything that can be fixed other than managed. I've already looked into it in tremendous detail. Let's see if the phone lines are working now. Ron, hang tight as I open them up for the first time. Ron, try dialing in now. Somebody try dialing in now. The phone lines are open. Let me hit the phone number again.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
All right, here we go. I think we're good to go. Caller from the 814, you're live on the Fantasy Football Show. Who am I talking to?
Yeah, you're there.
Okay. There we go.
But you lost my name, obviously.
Yeah.
From the 814.
I don't think your audio is coming up here. Talk again, Ron.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I don't think the listeners can. So hold on one second. Let me get in here. We might not have phone lines today. I think I could fix it, but it's hard to do it on the fly. Hold on one second. Yeah, hang tight, pal. Hang tight. Oh, there we go. I think this is good. Talk now, Ron.
All right.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're fixed. We're back. Okay. So I got Ron Navy on the line. Yeah, I don't have your names today. I'll have to see if that fixes when I get back in there. Okay. Sounds far away. Can you guys hear him okay? I think you can hear him now.
Testing.
Okay,
Everybody
so
hear me?
yeah, let's talk about a couple of the players. I don't know if I still have my rankings up. Let me see if I do. Mock draft. Here it goes. So who else is on the line, by the way? I got Ron Navy and who else?
It's Avi.
George. Oh, Avi. What's up, Avi?
What's up, Avi? Avi, you're from the
Yo,
You're from the 339, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me save you guys' names in here. I don't know why this went away. That's ridiculous if I lost it. Hold on a second. Okay, Avi. Avi. Okay, Avi, I got you added. Avi, and it's okay, Avi, if you disagree. Ron, you're the 814. I got your area code here. Hold on one second.
Yep.
Let me go ahead and add you in here. Welcome to the phone line, Ron. I don't know why everything went away. I think if I restart everything, it'll be fine.
I'm a first-time caller.
First-time caller, Ron. Okay, Avi, looking at I don't know if you can see the board right now, but what do you feel is the value here? Let's say that this is the way the ADP shakes out, okay? And I'm a little different. I'm higher on Charbonnet. I'm higher on Mingo. I'm lower on Addison. I'm lower on Johnston. But pretending that this is how it is, who do you like? Like, who do you feel like is getting overlooked here? And who do you feel like could be way better than people are thinking?
All right, from this perspective, Addison at 7 I like.
A lot will agree with you.
And JSN at 4 seems like he could be decent. If Tyler Lockett or DK gets hurt, he'll be pretty good.
And who do you not like? Who is a guy you don't like? Even if it's not just on this list, but are you like, I'm out on let's say the landing spot for these tight ends, or do you dislike Bryce Young because of his size?
For me, it's going to be my boy Zay Flowers, who I absolutely love. I think 3's a little high, even though I love his talent. I'm not doubting him. But with OBJ, Lamar, run-first offense, I think it could be a little risky that high. By
the way, TMT just gifted 5 exclusive memberships. TMT to the absolute moon. Appreciate you, TMT. Ron Navy, who do you like more than this board? And who do you like more or less just in general than the general population? I know you like Addison, but so maybe choose a different person.
Well, no, I mean, listen. You look at Addison your way, and I look at Addison my way. I believe in Cousins more than you do, and it makes sense that he's there on your rankings. I have him higher, and that's me. But we're talking about your rankings. That's Quentin Johnston. You got at 8.
Yep.
I don't have Quentin Johnson at all. I think Quentin Johnson's more of like a 15 guy. I actually would put Stroud there.
That's interesting.
If you wanted to, and you're thinking, I'd put Young then Stroud because quarterbacks get more points than these guys anyways.
That's interesting.
Quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's probably the player that I got the most, and it's fine. It's fine. The most pushback on, and pushback's great. The people I were talking to, and you don't have to. You can disagree with me in here. I'm not mad at anybody disagreeing with me. The comments I made were to the people that have a real negative, just condescending, trying to tear down the chat and the show vibe in the chat, and we get rid of those people immediately. And that was who I was talking to. Not anybody that disagrees. You guys can love Quentin Johnson, and a lot of people love Addison. And Ron, all the pushback I got was on Quentin Johnson 8. Ron doesn't even have him in his top 15. So it's all over the board, and that's natural coming out of a mock draft or a ranking show, especially when nobody yet has digested any of this. Majority of people hated Gibbs on draft day and love him now because of the trade of Swift, which was easy to see that it was going to happen. So people just need to realize that a lot needs to be digested. A lot of these players need to find out what they look like on the field at the NFL level. And just remember that JJ was ranked in the dead center of his draft class when people did rookie ranking videos and analysis. JJ was right here. Okay? JJ was right here. And that needs to be kept in mind, that nobody is going to see everything coming. Addison, to me, has limitations. To other people, they love the volume enough to say, hey, I'm the kind of guy that likes to draft T. Higgins anyway, even though he's the number 2. Then people that are okay with that are probably going to be more okay with Addison's role. I think Quentin Johnson's got a whole lot that has to happen for him to even get into a position to get a lot of volume. But he does have a better quarterback, or potentially a better quarterback situation than a lot of the other guys. So maybe that volume's going to be a little bigger. And from a third wide receiver role, with obviously Allen and Williams not likely to play full seasons, he's going to dip into that, at least the number 2 wide receiver role from time to time throughout the year. But I don't know. He was already kind of doubted by so many people. Ron, I know you didn't like him going into the draft. I think given that he didn't go to a clear-cut role, right now at least, his future could be bright. I can see why you don't like him in this situation. We got another caller on the phone. Real quickly, Ron,
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to you. Let's go to the 925 area. No, let's go to the 623 area code. Who are you?
My name's Austin.
What's up, Austin?
Nothing. I like your rankings. The only ones, of course, I think the Mingo one, that's a little high for my liking, but I like it. It's bold. I think the Bijan Gibbs ones are locks at this point. I personally am just going to roll with the skill. I love JSN. I think that even though he's in Seattle, I still think that DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett will, like I said, of course, they're going to eat into the targets and everything, but JSN, when he was in college, he actually benefited from Olave and Garrett Wilson playing like there too. So, and also, if you look at last year's statistics, the Seattle Seahawks actually were one of the heaviest passing offenses, even though Geno Smith, it's not like he's elite or anything. I still think that JSN might have a nice little rookie season with the 2 dudes in front of him. Especially if he's going to be playing out of the slot. Those receivers get targeted so much. I like Zay Flowers, but for the exact opposite reason, I would put JSN at 3 and put Zay at 4 just because Lamar Jackson, as much as I love him, he is definitely not a pass-first quarterback. And with OBJ there, Rashad Bateman, people forget, is there still too. They have first-round capital on him. And Mark Andrews, he's basically going to be either the 3rd or 4th option there. So that's why I think I like JSN above Zay Flowers personally. And Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, they have receiving roles, of course, but they're definitely not receiving roles like Dobbins going to have or anybody that on
it's
the
a good
Ravens.
It's a good take. I guess my only thing would be that it's like if let's say JSN landed in a little more potent an offense in terms of passing the football, like Seattle's going to want to run a ton. And so he's got to overtake DK. He can't really survive and meet the expectations people have for him unless he overtakes DK, which he can do. Like I said in my rankings, I went back and forth on this one, and I still do. I still want to put JSN at 3 and Zay at 4, and then I flip it. Like, that's just my honest take. I don't really have a good handle on this part right here. And quite honestly, I think my takeaway from doing this video, and I think this is what resonates with me, and especially when I read a lot of the very negative comments on it, is this tier break right here is a hard tier break. This is not a soft tier break. This is like Gibbs and Bijan are so much more, in my opinion, valuable than the rest of this list because of what I explained earlier. That quite arguably one could say that Josh Downs or Hyatt in their situations could end up being this 4 or 5 or 6 overall player. Like, is it that crazy? Can anybody on the phone line say that they would bet their life that Hyatt or Josh Downs wouldn't be the number 1 wide receiver from this draft class? Like, it's impossible. Like, is it possible that Hyatt becomes that guy in his situation? I mean, Zay, JSN, and Quentin Johnson did not land, and Addison did not land. None of them. Even Zay. You could say Zay. And I've been a little critical on Zay's landing spot, even though it's the most clear-cut avenue. And this is where, Ron, we talked about it the other night, and you were like, how are you not high on Zay? It's because even though Zay's landing spot is the most clear-cut to the number 1 wide receiver role, just as the caller just pointed out, it's not necessarily going to be leading to this amazing amount of production and target and volume. So it's like JSN, Zay Flowers, Addison, and Johnston, even though a lot of people think Johnston is going to eventually be in a great spot, and he really could. I mean, these guys, who's to say Hyatt isn't the best wide receiver in this class? Who's to say that Mingo can't, with all the targets and volume he's going to get, developing with his young quarterback? Like, this is why I say, from this tier break on, it is anybody's guess as to how it's going to happen. And I know that's how it usually is, but more so this year than any other year is there uncertainty from number 3 all the way down. Like, this just doesn't look like a clear cut, unless we're talking quarterback. I think Young is the guy. But Johnston to Zay, JSN to Addison, all the way up and down this board here, these guys could slip in there easily. And Ron,
I personally, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just to add to that point real quick, which I think will add to the conversation that you're having, which is good. I think that you're right. I think all these wide receivers are pretty close to each other in terms of like value based off of like, landing spots and also potential and everything. If we're looking at this from a dynasty perspective, the only reason why I think I personally, if I was to rank it, of course, I think I would have JSN, like Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, and Addison, if I'm just being honest. But that's the only reason I say that is because JSN is, I guess, behind Tyler Lockett, who's 31, and then Johnston is behind, I guess, Keenan Allen. I think that he would take Allen's role, and he's 31, I believe, also, or he's 30. And in a year or two, I think that those dudes are going to have amazing opportunities, especially Quentin Johnson with Herbert. I love the sound of that personally. That dude's a rack monster.
I do like the idea of it. I'm not going to lie. And that's why he's in my, it's not like I'm saying I won't draft him. He's still ranked. You know what I mean? Like Quentin Johnson could climb. I'm admitting that. But I feel like, I already had an idea of Quentin Johnson being overrated walking into the draft. And that's just, I guess, where the divide happens between people that love Quentin Johnson's landing spot and people that love his landing spot but are still a little bit like, I don't love it for now because I don't think he's taking it from those 2 wide receivers in front of him, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. But will Keenan Allen and Mike Williams stay healthy? Probably not. So Quentin Johnson will find his way, but he's got a lot of developing to do. In my opinion, he seems very one-dimensional, And I don't feel like at his size he feels like he's quick enough and has the skill sets he needs to become like a number one for a team. Now, could he, like Addison, like potentially JSN, or you could say like Zay Flowers in his more dumbed down potential amount of volume, could he reach these guys' levels of production? Sure, absolutely. But are any of these guys going to become better than Drake London? Are any of them going to become better than, of course not, the answer is, Olave or Garrett Wilson? But what about even Watson? What about even Pickens? Are all those guys going to be ranking above these guys at the end of the day? I just don't get a strong sense. These landing spots are, if we're being honest with ourselves, not good. Like this landing spot could be good if he ends up being good. I just have the most questions about him out of the big four wide receivers. So as I alluded to earlier, if Zay landed in the Chargers location, JSN landed in the Chargers location, if Addison landed there, I would be really excited about that, like many people are about Quentin Johnston. But because this is my most doubted of the four, I'm like happy for the landing spot, but I'm not too sure what we're going to get out of the player. So
yeah, JSN getting sniped by the Seahawks during the draft absolutely broke my heart right before the Chargers, because that was the perfect landing spot. Quentin Johnston honestly kind of reminds me of, like, this is his floor, but Quentin Johnston could be N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry had that rack ability. That's why the Pats drafted him so high. His run after the catch ability is what they were banking on, and Quentin Johnston that's the exact same thing that people are banking on, is his run after the catch ability. And if he doesn't stop that body catching, he's definitely gonna, he could bust quick. But he has the most potential based just off a quarterback play alone, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you could compare a few different things, and every one of these wide receivers has a nice aspect to their game, no doubt. That's why Johnson was, in some people's mind, ranked number 1 or 2 from this draft class. But a lot of people feel like there's a lot of people will say one-trick pony, doesn't feel like he dominates the space around him yet, doesn't understand his size yet. Because like DK, one thing about DK is once DK figured out, and I think he's still figuring it out, the spatial dominance part to his game, he'll be unstoppable in a jump ball situation. I like Johnston. I just don't love him. And if he can develop, I will be very, very intrigued by this landing spot. I'm open-minded to it. But I certainly don't feel like I can put him any higher than this. Like I could go back and forth on these three right here. But I know a lot of people are shocked by the Charbonnet ranking, but that goes to show how unsure of this wide receiver group that I am, to where I'd rather have and bank on a home run hitter that's going to win me a league. And especially if we're talking dynasty and something happened to Kenneth Walker, this guy would absolutely win you and build you a dynasty no one could stop. Like, this guy has the potential to be a top 5 running back if he gets in there. This is Alexander Madison on steroids. So yeah, I get the hey, but also remember in my video I say, are you supposed to draft him here? Probably not. Like, this is my ranking in terms of how I kind of feel it playing out. And I think Mingo will be that good. But do you draft Charbonnet and Mingo later? If you can, of course you do. Of course you do. No one's suggesting you draft Charbonnet here if you can draft him here and here. And by the reaction of the chat when I say Charbonnet, they're thinking I'm saying take him at 5 no matter what. No, this is kind of like when I rank Bijan number 1. Do I want you to go and get Bijan number 1 overall? No. I want you to try and get Bijan at 6 if you can get him at 6. I want you to get him at 8 if you can get him at 8. Me saying Bijan is going to finish as the number 1 running back as a rookie does not give you a license, or shouldn't give you a license, to go get him at number 1 overall just because I said he's going to be amazing. Charbonnet, get him as late as you can get him.
Well, if anything, I think it's a good thing in a way that Charbonnet got drafted by Seattle. And, like, the reason I say that is he's still my running back 3 on the board. I think in terms of a football draft pick, I think pairing him with Kenneth Walker is actually a good thing. Kenneth Walker and Sharp is a dope combo. But the thing that I think people aren't really looking into that much is Charbonnet is a better receiving back than Kenneth Walker. And the thing about Kenneth Walker is he's pretty injury prone, as you can tell from his rookie year. So I don't think Seattle fully trusts Kenneth Walker to have like that full workload. I think Charbonnet, they drafted him only, if you look at the draft capital, like he's only one pick behind where they drafted Kenneth Walker. So like, if anything, I think that
not injury prone. Walker isn't injury prone. He had a hernia, which could happen to anybody. That doesn't make him injury prone. And when he recovered from that, he got into the lineup and he finished strong. And
let me rephrase what I said. He has an injury history, and I think Seattle is concerned with that. My thing is that Charbonnet, in my opinion, I think that he could easily take the RB1 spot over Kenneth Walker.
I don't think he's taking it. He's not taking it from him. But if Walker,
let me just say this real quick. I think Charbonnet, like in a year or 2 years, I think that if everything plays in his favor, he can be the RB1 for Seattle. In terms, he has a better receiving capability. I think he's a bigger back. He can run just as well as Kenneth Walker can. I think if anything, it hurts Kenneth Walker's stock more than it hurts Charbonnet's stock, personally.
Well,
I totally disagree.
If we look at the history of the NFL, the way it's been going, committees are 100%.
All right, hold on, Avi, let Ron go.
Everybody said Kenneth Walker can't catch the ball. Well, he wasn't throwing the ball. That's the thing. He can catch fine. There's no problem with that. Kenneth Walker is more fluid than Charbonnet is. Charbonnet is a tough runner, hard to tackle, but Charbonnet is no way as fluid as Walker. And the reason that we hate this landing spot for him is because he could be a starter somewhere else, but now he's stuck there in Chicago. I'm not Chicago, but Seattle, and you know, it's great for the Seattle football team as a team, but it stinks for us in fantasy football because we don't get to use them like we thought we were going to be able to get to use him.
All right, hang tight on.
I'm not saying Kenneth Walker is a bad running back. He's clearly one of the best young running backs in the league right now. I think Charbonnet. Give me a second. Come on, give me a second.
I listened to you for 10
minutes. All right, Avi, hold on a second, Avi. You have gone on for a little while. Hold on, we got to get some other people able to talk. You've already.
I love you, Avi, but.
All right, hold on, guys.
And he doesn't really have an injury
Ron,
history.
hold on, everybody, hold on. Walker, yeah, I think suggesting that Walker has an injury history, which Avi walked back, is a little bit reckless because he doesn't hold that label yet. He had a hernia that took him a while to get on the field. I think Walker proved himself in an amazing fashion. And Avi's not saying he's garbage. He's just saying Charbonnet's better. Like, I wouldn't be sitting here telling you to take Charbonnet early in your early to mid first round of a rookie draft if I didn't think he was near as capable. So the problem lies that the team may be tempted, maybe, we'll see, to use both of them because they're both amazing. But Charbonnet's not going to steal the job away from Walker, but injuries could happen to anybody. And Pete Carroll decided to pair both these guys up because he wanted the best running crew in the entire National Football League, and he got it. But let's keep in mind, just pump the brakes on the Charbonnet situation, impeding on Walker if Walker's healthy and fully going and operating at a full capacity. Let's remember that Pete Carroll picked up the phone when he drafted him and said, I'm going to need you to be a special teamer as well. He said that to him immediately on the phone call. So we know from the jump, Walker's getting the job. If Charbonnet's ever called upon, and he could be early on, he may not be at all. He may not get a single carry in week one. It might be one of those things where everybody looks back and says, oh my God, I let Walker fall. And if that's the case, this guy Charbonnet is going to be very slow moving to even get into the workload and the workload divide because it took Walker a while. Like, we know that they're not going to just shove the rookie out there early on. I guess what and everybody needs to watch my Walker Charbonnet video where I explain what to do going forward, what to do if you already own them. The bottom line is this. From this moment forward, Walker's going in the 4th round. He's going in the 4th round, and that's an absolute steal. And anybody that wants to draft Walker going forward, you're getting potentially still a top 5 running back with some risk that we can't see, and we're a little bit concerned about it. But it might just end up amounting to an A.J. Dillon to Aaron Jones, where it's not really affecting anything. And so if Tony Pollard can be an amazing running back and pop off with Zeke Elliott hogging a bunch of the work, I have no doubt that Kenneth Walker, if he stays healthy, and I again don't think he's injury prone, if he stays healthy and stays on the field, there's no way I think he gets unseated. But Avi, to your point, there's a reason I'm saying Charbonnet is the biggest secret weapon in the 1st round. It's because I believe that if disaster does strike, he will step up and he will be amazing. So you're not wrong. No one's wrong or right yet anyway, but you're not wrong in my mind because of how you're saying it. I think how you're saying it's maybe just, making people think
I think I'm getting misunderstood. So
right.
I don't think it's a bad take either to say that Kenneth Walker might have worse hands than Charbonnet as it stands right this second. I think that, in my opinion, I think that Kenneth Walker, of course, is the RB1 right now. I'm just saying that in a year or so right now, this situation, of course, right now with the draft capital, I'm going to assume that it's 1A, 1B, of course, Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet. But if I was to call it like in a year or so from now, I could totally see Charbonnet taking the RB1 spot from Kenneth Walker. I do think Kenneth Walker is a better running back as it stands, but I do think that Charbonnet is a better receiver at this very moment in time. I don't think that's a very hot take. Of course, it's all objective, but
all right, let's go to the.
How often do you see Seattle throw the ball to the running backs, though? That's the thing. And they did throw a little bit to Walker. We were getting so frustrated last year, especially in that San Francisco game. Throw the ball to Walker. Throw the ball. He was wide open coming off the edge, and they weren't throwing him the ball a lot. And when they did throw him the ball, he was making huge gains and huge plays and making people miss. And he was catching the ball. I mean, look at how many times he was targeted, and look at how many catches he made out of those targets he was targeted. So just because everybody got this conception with Walker, because he wasn't thrown to in college that he couldn't catch the ball. But that was the whole thing, is he can catch the ball. They just didn't throw it to him. And that's my big thing there. And then with Quentin Johnson, I think Mike Williams is a more physical guy, and I don't think he can match Williams' thing. But I wasn't impressed with the Chargers overall. I don't think they did it. I mean, yeah, they drafted him, but I don't think they did enough to they're never going to beat Kansas City this year. They have no chance. They didn't. There's a lot of areas they needed another running back. I mean, I would have loved I wanted Charbonnet to go to San Diego so bad, because Eckler, he's almost done. His career's almost done, and they didn't address that. They didn't address a lot of things the Chargers didn't. So my outlook for the Chargers ain't that great this year, because I don't think they did enough in the draft.
All right, hang tight, Ron. Let's go to the 925 caller. You've been waiting patiently.
Yeah, this is George.
What's up, George?
So my take on the Seattle backfield issue here is, number one, this is good for us who are high on Walker, because two reasons. Rookies hit a wall in their first year, right? And this is why they drafted Charbonnet, because last year towards the end of the season, you could tell Walker was kind of wearing down. That playoff game, he was kind of getting used a lot. So they're getting that backup role. They're filling that Penny role, because they lost Penny and they lost Homer in free agency, right? So then they drafted McIntosh, who's the third running back, who's going to be like the pass catcher. This is going to help Walker. It's going to give him, some spells here and there to keep him healthy and for the long term. So, a late third, early fourth pick on Walker, that's a steal, like you're saying. That's my take on the whole Seattle backfield.
Yeah, and I think, again, to make it very clear, and if anybody wants more clarity, go watch my Charbonnet Walker video. But I think there's a world where you can love both these guys. There's a world where you should cuff them, too. If you draft Walker in a redraft, you have no business not cuffing him to Charbonnet. And if you can get Walker in the 4th round and Charbonnet in round 10 or 11, you have yourself one of the craftiest running back ones in fantasy football, and you only paid a 4th and 11th round pick to secure it. So let's be very clear how valuable Walker is right now with his newfound ADP. Let's also look at it from the lens of, just because I love Charbonnet and I think Charbonnet could win you a league doesn't mean I'm rooting against Walker, doesn't mean Walker can't succeed, doesn't mean there's a high likelihood of him not succeeding. But this is an odds game. These are running backs. These are players that go out there and get hit. ACL tears can happen very easily just from a helmet to the side of the knee. And given the immense upside that Charbonnet has, he has the ability to be a top 5 running back, top 5 to 7 running back even, at the National Football League level as a rookie even, if he gets injected into the lineup through not overtaking Walker, but an injury, you can win your league. So just because I'm super high on one approach, taking Charbonnet everywhere I can, even when I don't have Walker, doesn't mean I'm not believing that Walker's going to survive and thrive. Hang tight real quickly. I just want to get these super chats out of the way. Who is the better dynasty investment, Kenneth Walker or Gibbs? If you could give me Walker and Charbonnet, then we have ourselves a debate here. If I could only have Kenneth Walker, I'm not going to lie, having Gibbs is an attractive proposition. But then you got to ask yourself this question: how is it any different that Gibbs has Monty in his path than Walker has Charbonnet coming into his line of sight? You know what I mean? I think it's weird when people only look at it from one perspective. Because Gibbs is inbound, you look at Monty as expendable or somebody that can be pushed out. But just because Charbonnet comes in doesn't mean Walker's not going to chew him up and spit him out, because Walker is that talented. If he doesn't get hurt, he won't allow Charbonnet to take the job. Could he surrender third down work? That's out of his control. And Charbonnet is a good pass protector, so there's an opportunity for Charbonnet to get some of that work. Not all of it, but some of it. They very much like what Walker brings to the table on all 3 downs. And Pete Carroll even came out and said, both of these guys are 3-down backs. We didn't bring Charbonnet in to replace Kenneth Walker on third down. They're both going to play on third down because they can both play on third down. So there's that. So, I mean, This I could go back and forth on this. Kenneth Walker alone without Charbonnet versus Gibbs. I could honestly argue both of them. I probably would lean real quickly. One question or one sentence, not even one sentence. One word answer, yes or no, on this: Gibbs or Walker. Let's go to the 623 caller.
Walker.
I think George, Gibbs or Walker, yes or no, or just a one word answer.
Gibbs.
Avi, Gibbs or Walker?
Gibbs.
Ron, Gibbs or Walker?
Walker.
Okay, it's close. I mean, it's close. It makes me even hesitate because I like Gibbs that much. But if you could get Charbonnet, that changes the whole question and answer. Aloha with the $4.99 super chat says, I drafted Gibbs today. My running backs are Pollard, Gibbs, and Walker. My wide receivers are A.J. Brown, Lamb, and Devontae. I can trade Justin Herbert and Walker for J.J. Depends on who your QB would be. Who did you say your backup? You didn't say your backup QB. It depends on who your QB would be. But I do love getting J.J., but if you can spare your quarterback like that, then yeah, I don't mind doing that at all.
Yeah, real quick, one more thing on this Walker debate. I think a lot of people are pumping the brakes. They're scared because of this draft of Charbonnet. But really what I think is, like I said, if you can get him in that late third, early fourth, that's a steal. Why would you not take that instead of – because pre-draft, we were drafting him in like early second. So like people are like hesitant now. But, like, this is going to actually benefit Walker in the long run.
Well, because those people don't feel like it will. Those people are predicting him to be unseated. And so those people will argue I'll just draft Charbonnet only, which is a strategy. And I don't think he'll be unseated, but could he get hurt or some kind of unforeseen thing? Yeah, there will be teams where I have just Charbonnet. And if he does get hurt, those teams will benefit. There will be teams where I have Walker and Charbonnet. And going forward, there will be very few, if any, where I have just Walker, because I will reach if I have to make sure I solidify that pairing, because it quite arguably at fourth round value, especially fourth round, 4.2, let's call it 4.1, 4.2, 4.3. If you get Walker there and you get Charbonnet in round 11, 10, you are literally giving yourself a running back one at the cost of no first, second, or third round pick being spent. Hold on real quick. Let me get through these super chats. Thickskin Smitty, thank you, Ron, for the super chat. Appreciate you. Aaron Jones Lamb, 1.6 for Swift. Olave, the 1.3. Aaron Jones Lamb, 1.6 for Swift. Olave, 1.3. This is a smash because, number one, the 1.3 crushes the 1.6 because you might arguably get that Gibbs, you have a shot at getting Gibbs. So I would take that in a heartbeat. Lamb and Olave. I think Olave could easily rival Lamb, if not be better than him for the long term. And so Swift versus Aaron Jones. Swift is younger. Aaron Jones is on his way out. This is an easy trade for me. Not to mention it's a dynasty super flex. So that 1.3, if you need a quarterback, obviously gives you that part. And that aspect of it, and I've seen a lot of people in superflexes get Bijan at number 3. I've been getting DM after DM this week about, hey Smitty, I got Bijan at number 2. Hey Bijan, I got Bijan at number 3. I got Bijan at number 3. You got a great shot at getting Gibbs if you don't need a quarterback. That 1.3 is a huge upgrade. I smashed that Olave side all day long. Ron Navy with another super chat. Your phone's not working. Thank you, Ron, for the super chat and the alert. And then the final super chat, I think I've got them all squared away at this point. Austin says, got the 1.1 through 1.3 and the 1.6 in the rookie dynasty draft. Got Watson and Fields. How would you draft based on this? Watson, I assume that's your quarterback, Deshaun Watson and Justin Fields. And so that would make it a very, very easy decision for me to go Gibbs and Bijan at 1.1 and 1.2. I probably would still very strongly consider going quarterback at that 1.3, but it's just such a value. You can make some huge trades later, even if you sat on it and Bryce Young turned into a monster. You could trade him for JJ. So it's an amazing trade value, and I don't feel like this draft class has anything that screams to me. So I probably would go Bijan, Gibbs, and Bryce Young if it were me. Of course, this would be dependent on your wide receivers, which you didn't list. But if you've got to go wide receiver, I think you'll know by the time you need to draft at JSN or Flowers or whoever, Quentin Johnson, if you like Quentin Johnson. And I don't hate that people like Quentin Johnson. I just personally have more questions than I do belief. I probably go Young as the third option, but I definitely take the 2 RBs. Thank you for the super chats. Any other super chats will get handled immediately, I promise. I'm looking for them. Let's go on over to Ron. Let's go on over to let's go over to Ron.
Oh, all right. I just got a couple real quick things. I want to push back on both George and Avi a little bit. George, you said that Walker ran into a rookie wall. Well, his last 3 games of the season, 107 yards rushing, 133 and 114. That's not too much. And the game before that, week 15, he played that hard-ass San Francisco defense. He only rushed for 47, but he had 4 out of 5 receptions for 32 yards, which really, if you remember the game, got Seattle closer in that game. And Avi, he was only targeted 35 times last year as far as targeted, but he caught 24 out of 35. So, how can you say he's not a pass catcher? I mean, that's a pretty high percentage being targeted only 35 times and catching 24 of them.
I want to make one to y'all. I'm not the one talking about Walker. I think it's Thomas. So it's not me, Avi. I think you got the wrong person. I'm just trying to let you know that.
Oh, well, whoever was talking about him not being the pass catcher, I mean, he can catch
No,
the
he's a
ball.
beast.
He's obviously catching the ball. 24 out of 35, they just don't throw him enough. So that was my point there. So sorry, Avi, if I thought that was you.
Nah, you're chilling. I just wanted to make sure.
Sorry, Avi.
I love Walker.
Yeah. So Avi, I guess let me start a new topic because we don't need to dance around the Walker in Charbonnet.
Yeah.
It's very simple and easy. Charbonnet is an absolute monster, and if he gets in there, he will explode. Now, will he take the job from Walker? Some say yes, some say no, and that's up for debate. And you can easily have either side of that opinion, and be a normal human being with a functioning brain. Like it's definitely something that it just comes down to personal preference and how much you like Kenneth Walker. But I think we can all admit that if you draft Walker, you need Charbonnet. I think if you're competent in fantasy football at all, you would know that is a must. So that's that. Fourth round's good value. You don't have to take that. Maybe somebody loves a fourth round player better than Walker, and that's fine too. In Dynasty, would you trade Walker for Drake London straight up? I mean, I've seen people do that as a panic move. And to be honest with you, I think Drake London's so good that I could understand somebody going that direction. If maybe their running backs can survive and they needed a wide receiver anyway, I certainly would be okay with doing it for Olave or Garrett Wilson. There are ways to get out of Kenneth Walker if you don't own Charbonnet. Just make sure you make a smart move that gets you a player that you truly believe has potential top 5 value at their position. And then it's not the craziest move in the world to make. But let's move on real quickly to a different question. And I'll say this. Who believes that Bijan Robinson can finish as the number 1 overall player in fantasy football, the number 1 overall running back, let's say, in 2023? Let's start off with Avi.
So with that take, I'm going to say he definitely has upside and talent too. I think Atlanta's a decent spot. He's going to get a lot of touches. I would have him number 5 to 10 overall. I think he's going to finish in, but he does have the upside to finish 1 to 2. But I'll say 5 to 10 to me.
All right, let's go to the 925 caller.
Yeah, this is George.
Yeah, sorry,
I
I can't enter you in right now, so I'm forgetting. Go ahead, George.
I think Bijan is in a good spot because Atlanta likes to run the ball a lot. The only concern is I don't know how many games they're going to be leading. I still have them projected to be like a 6-10 or a 7-10 team. So I mean, yeah, he'll have some good numbers, but top rookie running back, no, that's going to go to Gibbs all day, every day. He's in a better spot, better offense. They're a better team. They're going to be winning a lot of games. He's going to be catching a lot of passes, and that offense is going to be lethal this year. That's just what I think.
Crumbs dropping a super chat saying Roschon Johnson will be huge in 2024. I think I don't know if you mean 2023 and 2024 if you're just saying 2024. But yeah, he's a good player. I mean, quite honestly, I probably should have put him in that very tail end of the conversation of the mock draft tonight because he does deserve to be there with Chase Brown. Yeah, so Roschon needs to be in the mix there. I should have added him at that tail end there. But I don't think he's like top 10, but you could argue him 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, anywhere in that territory. Definitely a lot of upside for him. Ron,
Smitty?
Yeah.
Hey, Smitty. I just wanted, because I just remembered, Golf for Life, I think it was yesterday or the day before in the chat, and I don't think you saw him. He was actually asking how you become an exclusive member. And I just saw him in the chat, and I just remembered he asked that question the other day, and I don't think he got answered.
Okay, this link right here is how you become a YouTube exclusive member. All you got to do is click. I'm going to pin it. Actually, let me also show everybody this right here. If you want to become a YouTube exclusive member, all you got to do is go to this little number right here. Hold on. Where is it at? There it is. So right here, you'll see this join button on my YouTube channel. There's also a membership tab on if you're on desktop, so join or memberships. And on mobile, you'll see memberships right here. You'll sometimes see a join button as well. But all you got to do if you ever want to become a YouTube exclusive member outside of the link that I just dropped and pinned is at any point you'll be suggested, hey, you want to become a member. When you're in the live chat, it'll even tell you. Or you just go to the memberships tab. There's also the merch store if you click on store. And then channels is where you're going to find my Dynasty channel. So really the YouTube navigation menu at the top has a lot to it that people don't use. So memberships or click the join button and that will get you where you need to go. But I pinned the link. So appreciate that. All right, Ron, tell me about Bijan.
Oh yeah, Bijan, I think as highly of him as you do. So, it's I agree. Yes. He has the ability to finish top one of all running backs this year.
And I think the last person to answer would be 623.
Yeah. So I think that Bijan finishing RB1 is definitely dependent on how Desmond Ridder honestly performs, because I think that they're going to run the ball regardless. I think they ran the ball like 65, 70% of the time last year, some crazy clip. So I think that he's still going to be a top 10 running back, but in terms of finishing number one overall, I think that Desmond Ridder needs to take a step up. They have a top 5 offensive line, and they drafted a left guard, I think, in the second round this year to bolster their O-line. So I think that he can definitely do it. And his PPR ability, like, they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. They're not going to be ahead most of the game. So he's going to be catching the ball a lot out of the backfield. I'm not worried about Tyler Algier at all. You don't spend a number 8 overall pick on a running back to not have him be a workhorse. I think the chances of him being RB1 overall, I think it's decently high, but like I said, it really just depends on how Desmond Ridder performs. If he's just an average, decent quarterback, like if he can kind of do what Daniel Jones did last year, I think that he definitely is going to be RB1.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of dependency with any of this stuff. So I agree that some certain things have to happen. But if I'm drafting number 4 overall in a redraft, I'm not scared. Like I said in my video, I'm not scared. Cooper just became a YouTube exclusive member. Appreciate that. I'm not scared to draft Bijan 4 or 5 overall. I'm not in a redraft whatsoever. I'm not scared of laughter. I don't care what people say. People made fun of us when we did it at 8, drafted him at 8 and 9. And we knew he'd climb. But now if I have to take him at 4, I beg you guys not to if you don't need to. Like if you can trade down and get him at 6 or 7 and get something, please try it. But if you're in a best ball draft, and if anybody wants to draft with us, we do best ball drafts during usually during the graveyard shows. Use promo code Smitty, or the link is in every description of every video. I'll drop the link in a second in the chat, but you'll want to sign up early, because if you don't have your account created using promo code Smitty, here's the link right now. I'll drop it, and I'm going to pin this one now. You won't get into the drafts. You'll have to sign up while you're trying to get in. But if you're drafting at number 4, there's nothing wrong with taking Bijan at 4 or 5 if you're, instead of forcing yourself in a league where you're paying money and you can't trade down and you're just supposed to take a different player. So I'm going to do it. No, take who you want. Like Bijan could easily. Javonte. Another question. Somebody asked this question right here. Let's talk about Javonte real quick. Dan New says, Smitty, did Javonte win the draft? We haven't mentioned a word about Javonte winning the draft. So, Dan, I appreciate you bringing this up. There's been so many topics that fly at me, and I don't get a chance to address every single player. And I'm going to. Tomorrow I'm going to do a video on draft winners and draft losers. And Javonte will certainly be a draft winner, because he escaped getting an elite, electric, running back to get drafted onto this team and threaten his future. So, does anybody disagree that Javonte escaped the draft?
I'm still worried about Javonte, to be honest with you. I know that the modern medicine and stuff like is pretty good for like improving ACLs and like getting players back on the field as soon as possible. But man, that leg injury was bad. I think he tore every single ligament in his knee. I don't even think he's
no. He didn't tear. He didn't tear every single ligament in his knee, bro. It wasn't that bad. He tore his LCL and his ACL, but he didn't tear every single ligament.
Did he tear his meniscus too?
There wasn't word that he did. He could have. Usually you do, but he didn't tear every ligament in his knee.
Oh, I might be wrong about that, but I don't know. That Javonte injury scares me more than like most running back injuries that I see. But I don't know. From Javonte's rookie year, I was feeling pretty promising about it, and then he got hurt last year, and now he's going to be coming off an injury. Just kind of like if Saquon Barkley couldn't have like a top 10 year when he came back from injury, I don't think Javonte can. So we're really looking at like 2024 for a return, and then he's going to be on like the last year of his rookie contract. I'm kind of nervous about Javonte, especially with a new coaching regime like Sean Payton. I could honestly see them trading for a running back like Dalvin Cook, or even if Alvin Kamara beats his court cases and all that stuff, I could see him reuniting with Sean Payton in Denver. I don't know. I know a lot of people. Javonte's kind of like one of those situations where like you're either in on him or you're out on him.
Well, I think a lot of it does. I don't know if you've seen all my ACL conversations that I have all the time, but it all really depends on readiness. If you get shoved out there in week 1 and you're not ready, and he's been talked about from he'll be ready from week 1 perspective, or he'll be on the PUP, or we don't know where he's going to be. So it really just depends on where he's at walking into the season. If you're behind the 8 ball, like think of it from this angle here. If you're behind the 8 ball on your recovery and you're literally trying to get this knee used to the smashing of the two joints together, that is hard on your meniscus when it's not used to getting hit and smashed. You have a looseness to the knee that puts your knee in jeopardy of tearing an LCL, an MCL, or re-injuring an MCL or LCL, or re-tearing the ACL, or tearing the PCL, or tearing meniscus when your knee is a lot looser put together. Because that's what the ACL does, is it holds the joint really tight. When you snap it, there's a lax to it. And that's where if you don't ever get an ACL repaired, and reportedly Spears, the running back, doesn't have an ACL in one of his knees. I don't know if that's accurate or not. That's been spread around. That's horrible because he's grinding away that meniscus because it's not a tight joint. But the whole thing is if you get rushed out there like JK did and you're not ready, your knee's going to just swell. You're going to have all kinds of compensation injuries. You have more fluid in here, and you just have a more likelihood of some sort of other injury because you're babying the knee and you're tearing a hamstring because you're running different. You're babying the knee and you tear your calf because you're holding back and you're cautious with your knee. You have to fully go out there, 100% trust. The swelling part's got to kind of be, for the most part, out of the way. I think even Breece Hall, who's ahead of schedule, is going to have a little bit of swelling the first couple weeks because his knee's not used to it. You can't practice playing on that because everyone's being very careful with you. So when you go out there with an ACL recovered knee, you're out there cutting harder than you've ever cut because you don't want to tear it in practice. You don't want to get hit in practice. So everyone's babying you. And so you have swelling and a little extra like recovery time. Breece Hall, from all indications, is so far ahead of schedule, there's going to be no problem with him playing week 1. They still may hold him out of the preseason. Maybe they don't even hold him out of the preseason. Maybe they want him to get a couple carries, and that would be actually good to see. So what it comes down to Javonte is, does he enter the season behind? And if he is, he's never going to catch up. That's what happened to Barkley and JK, and why I said to avoid both of them their year coming back from their ACL tears is because they weren't even flush. And to shove someone out there and play football, there's no way the knee can handle that, and that's why Barkley was constantly just battling it all year long. So you're right to a degree. They've made a lot of medical advances, and there's a lot of reasons to avoid a running back with an ACL tear that first year back. But if Javonte enters camp looking amazing, then I think I'll invest. If he's behind the 8 ball and they put him on the PUP, he could still come back midseason and look good like JK did, where he's not being... The problem is we don't want him rushed in week 1 and getting hurt by week 5 or 6. So he either needs to sit and then come back strong in the middle of the year, or he needs to be ready to get on the field in week 1. But I will say, and let me go over to Avi, I will say that I do feel like Javonte did survive the draft from the perspective of they didn't bring in another RB. And so it is his job. I don't think he lost the job whatsoever. Avi? All right, let's go over to Ron. Ron.
Yeah, I think it's a good sign because if they didn't believe in it, I mean, Sean Payton, the GM there, they would have invested in and drafted a good running back if they didn't believe that he couldn't come back. I mean, they got Perrine to do there, and they didn't really add to that, so they have him. So yeah, he's going to get at least the chance to come back and prove that he's capable of doing what he needs to do. Hopefully, we see it. But
yeah, they didn't even take.
They have to have some sort of belief, that they believe he's going to be okay.
Yeah, they didn't take a running back even in like the 6th or 7th round. Like you would have thought they would have taken somebody. I think P. Ryan's pretty easy to cuff to him too. I don't think. A lot of people like P. Ryan, but I don't think anybody's overdrafting him. So you should be able to get P. Ryan and Javonte pretty easily. And quite honestly, I haven't really put much thought into it, Dan, until right now in terms of best ball. And he got taken, I think, too early in my best balls that I did. But I might be targeting Javonte and P. Ryan together now that I know what I'm looking at. Whereas before, it was like you were targeting Javonte and who? Could have been a rookie in earlier best balls. We didn't know what to make of that, but now I don't know. In best ball, P. Ryan and Javonte could be a pretty good combo for your running back 2, 3 if you're building heavy at wide receiver early on. And guys, remember we're doing best ball. Best ball is the draft. Someone's saying is the stream choppy? Is the stream okay, everybody?
No. Yeah, it looks good to me.
Okay. Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty. Get ready for the drafts. I'll pin the link in the live chat. We're going to be doing Underdog Fantasy drafts. Promo code Smitty. That link is pinned and ready to rumble. They'll match up to $100 in your first deposit. And if you want to draft with us, we'll draft at like midnight. I don't know if we'll do one tomorrow. Probably not, but definitely Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this week. So make sure you guys are ready to go on those.
I have a pretty good question. No, you go.
He's going in the 8th in underdog, and P. Ryan's going in the 10th. So you could get those two guys, cuff them together, fairly cheap.
Yeah, I mean, if you waited on your RB, when did you say Javonte was going? Where?
Javonte was going around the 8th.
Okay.
8th round, and P. was going around the 10th round.
Okay. So I feel like that is a really good running back too. I want to try that in best ball. I want to try getting Javonte in round 8, P. Ryan in round 10. Maybe
P. Ryan goes down where Williams is going, from New Orleans, Jamal Williams, P. Ryan, they're all in that same little area. Kamara, I think, is going around before round 9, I think, where's Kamara's going, so that's the area.
You know what?
So actually, that kind of goes off of the question I was just about to ask, which I think is pretty good for best ball dynasty redraft and everything. So, Smitty, how do you feel about Kendre Miller and Devin A-Chain? And also, just to throw in a third running back that I think has really big sleeper value right now, how do you feel about Khalil Herbert? Because they didn't draft any running backs, the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
And they just improved the O-line drastically. So
I think Herbert remains what he was in previous years for us, Moon Man material, breakout material. We loved him. He was on our Moon Man list for a reason. This dude is win a league potential. So I love Khalil Herbert later, but not as a starter because he's not a starter right now. They don't view him as a starter, unfortunately. But maybe that changes in a couple weeks, and they start talking about him. As far as A-Chain, very good stash. I love A-Chain. I mentioned that on my rookie video tonight that we played before this. Just the whole first 20 minutes of the show. A-Chain and Chris Brown. A-Chain and Brown are very, very, Chase Brown are very, very good, like steal stash type players. I don't think you can expect either one of them to do anything in week 1 because you don't know if they're going to be in the lineup in time, but they easily could be. I think Mixon's not getting cut. The latest word today was that the Bengals were asked, hey, is Mixon going to be on the team? And they said he is going to be with us this year. So it looks like Mixon won't be released. However, he does have those charges that got refiled against him, and who knows what that turns into. So I like both those guys a lot. And then the other question was what?
The Kendra Miller?
Yeah. We talked Kendra Miller up, I think, before most channels even mentioned him. We've been on. Kendra's been him and Sean Tucker have been the secret weapon running back 4. If you were to rank all the rookie running backs, Kendra Miller has a lot of upside. I think I love the idea of Kamara and Kendra Miller and best ball cuffed together. That's similar to Javonte and Pirine. Might even be better. That might even be better than Javonte and Pirine. Because I'm already
worried about. Sorry, you go.
I imagine you're going to say, are you not worried about the suspension? Well, then Kendra Miller gets in there. So that's why I love the combination. But I love Kamara's value.
I was going to say, aren't you worried about Javonte or Jamal Williams in New Orleans? Because they just signed him, and he had a really good year last year.
Yeah. I think I don't know that he
was most goal line though.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of him, to be honest. I don't know what to make. I don't know that I believe in him. I think Detroit is just that good at running the football, and I don't know if he's going to become the starter if, let's say, Kamara does get suspended, or if Kendra Miller will take it. I guess you'd have to look at maybe. I don't think in best ball you'd want to draft all 3. I don't know where Jamal's value is though. His value could have tanked so badly, and we don't know it yet because we're waiting for the ADP to get fully updated. But maybe you can grab all 3 of them, in a best ball scenario. I don't know.
I think another thing that I think is pretty another running back to talk about too is I think that J.K. Dobbins might finish top 5 this year, honestly.
Is it possible? I suppose, but I did like him before he got injured, and I just don't know how I feel about that situation. But as I said, I think Kendra Miller's, I like him a lot. I think he's really, really, really good. I still love Kamara's value in best ball, and I probably would draft Kendra Miller and Kamara and not worry too much about Jamal. But I could live to regret that statement. But I just don't think he's. Yeah. I don't think he's going to do what people think he's going to do. He was handed so many goal line touchdowns, and he played very well. But it was Detroit that did that, and that's why I love Gibbs so much. And I think that's why everybody here loves Gibbs so much, is that he's going into – I know everyone that hates Gibbs or doubts Gibbs or hates the Detroit landing spot is thinking he's taking Swift's spot. He's not taking Swift's spot. He's taking the spot that Swift should have had that they never gave him. And that's going to impede on the running production of the other counterpart, which is why I don't think Monty just walks into a 17 touchdown environment. He walks into probably 8, 9, 10, probably 8 or 9 touchdowns on the ground. And that's a good amount. But I think you shift so much over to Gibbs that that role becomes a lot lesser than Gibbs. Gibbs is the guy.
I think that the role that Gibbs is immediately going to get, which is amazing, he's definitely going to be the between the numbers third down running back. I think they're going to ease him into. He's definitely going to get goal line touches, but Monty is definitely going to be like that Jamal Williams role. But they didn't draft Gibbs at 12 to not use him. So I do love Gibbs. I don't think people should be scared about him this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has a slow rookie start and then absolutely just wins you the league, like the later games.
Yeah, I like Gibbs a lot.
Yeah.
Camaro.
On Chase Brown in underdog, if you're going to draft underdog, you can get him anywhere. Right now, he's going 16th, 17th, or 18th round, but people are catching on. So go in there and get him now. And that value before, I'm sure his ADP is going to start rising, and so you can get him in 16, 17, 18 right now.
Yeah.
So that's just some heads up on Chase.
Will Kamara be suspended 6, 9, or 12 games this upcoming season? Probably 4 to 6 games if I had to guess, or I'd say even 3 to 6 games because the odds are very high. And it sounds like he wants to fight the charges, but at some point he could plea out. And if he pleas out to the conspiracy charge, which we've talked about on the show a ton, and there's the actual battery charge, and then there's the conspiracy to commit the battery charge. And the conspiracy, if he pleads out guilty on that, is a misdemeanor, criminal misdemeanor. And to the letter of the law, the NFL acts about a 2 to 4, 2 to 6 game suspension on that particular charge. So will the NFL look at the damning evidence of the video, or will they stick to the letter of the law essentially? And so I know people want to say the NFL has got to do something, but they have yet to do a single thing. And they could put them on paid leave as a message that, hey, maybe we do wait until the criminal stuff plays out before we, hand down discipline per se, but we'll put you on paid leave until you figure it out because it's bad optics for the league. They haven't done a thing. They don't care. And nobody else cares either. Nobody. I'm so shocked that we're the only channel that's live streamed both league videos when they happened. I don't even know that anybody live streamed after that. The morning, like we're the only one that goes live at midnight during breaking news. But even the day after, nobody went live on it to talk about it. It's crazy. I don't even understand it because people love gossip and spreading around all kinds of crazy news and whenever stuff breaks to tear down players all the time. And I'm not saying we wanted to tear down Kamara. Kamara tore down himself. This is not somebody that I think deserves any defending because he went out and beat a man to the ground. Do I think everybody should go through the process innocent till proven guilty in terms of the legal process, handing down the discipline from the legal perspective? Yeah. Like society, we need that. But from the NFL's perspective, private business, name one person on this call besides me that could go do something like that and not get fired the next day if they did it on the company time, so to speak. Like if Avi went on a business trip, I forget what Avi does. I think he's just in school. But if you got a new job, Avi, fresh new job in sales for some company, and you're out selling vacuums, okay? And you go to this convention in Vegas, and you're done with the convention, but you're still there on their time. You're still there in the hotel, wandering around, gambling at night, and you get into a situation that is exactly the same as Alvin Kamara's, and you do what Alvin Kamara did. Your boss would fire you in a heartbeat. Because you were there representing him. Kamara was at the Pro Bowl, right? The Pro Bowl was in Vegas when that happened. And so he was there representing the NFL. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's absolute madness.
Know what? He was already proven guilty by the video evidence. So he's not really innocent because the video evidence already shows that he's guilty of it. Both videos, the actual event and his comments he made in the limo. That already proves that he's guilty. He's not innocent of anything.
Well, the NFL does not care. Clearly, they don't. They don't. Look, they care more about Calvin Ridley.
They're probably going to suspend him for at least 6 games minimum. Because why else would the Saints go and sign Williams and draft Miller? They know something's coming.
Yeah, I think 4 to 6. I think 4 to 6 games though. I mean, it could be longer. It depends on how much people put up a stink. It really does. It all depends. The NFL doesn't care unless other people care. Like look at the Calvin Ridley situation. Calvin Ridley, not saying he didn't deserve to be suspended. I'm not saying that. But then you look at these other situations. Jameson Williams. I'm not saying Jameson Williams. The more that came out on that, the more it was pretty evident that he was. It was pretty hard to imagine him not being told or given the explicit instructions to make sure you do not do any of this on the premises. But it's still odd that the punishment for what he did do wrong. He did do wrong. He was told not to gamble on the premises, but he wasn't gambling on football. He wasn't. He was gambling, let's say, on basketball, whatever it was. but he did it on the premises, and they have GPS tracking on that, and you do surrender your rights to that. And when you sign up, there's a list that the teams are, the apps are going to report to the teams if they find a player that is playing on the app. Like, it's the way that the terms and conditions are. And so Jameson knew what was at play. He knew it was at play, and he did it anyway. But the fact that they have a preset 6-game suspension for that, but you can go do what Alvin Kamara did, that's where it's like the NFL doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It just 6 games is crazy for doing that. It's, fine. It should have been a big fine. I would understand that. That would make a whole lot of sense. Hey, you're going to be suspended for 1 game because we told you so, and you didn't listen to us, so we're going to make it sting a little bit. 1 game, 2 games, whatever, and a big fine. Instead, 6 games, like it's just crazy.
I could
What's
totally
even crazy is our legal system that lets somebody plea to conspiracy when there's video evidence of he actually did it. There's no conspiracy in it, but if they let him down to conspiracy, that's just wrong. Our legal system's totally hosed up, especially with that amount of evidence. He shouldn't be able to plead conspiracy.
He's gonna settle. He's gonna settle out of court with the dude that he assaulted, and the NFL is gonna definitely fine him. And
He can only settle though. He can only settle in a civil case.
Yeah, there's no settlement, and we go over this all the time. When people say he's going to settle, he can't settle. You can only plea out, but you can't even really plea out to the defendant's request. It's because it has to be. This is going to trial. This is a jury trial. This is a DA bringing forth charges from a criminal perspective. You can't settle. Everyone thinks that you can settle. You can't.
I totally thought this was a civil case.
No, the civil case is next. So he'll be going through.
Who was the running back? Was it Mixon that hit the girl at the restaurant?
Yeah, Mixon is the one that's been in all the, was in trouble in college. He kind of avoided, he's kind of stayed out of trouble pretty much his whole career until recently. He's had the 2 run-ins with the law, but one of them he reportedly wasn't at his house when a kid was shot, like in the front yard or something, and he wasn't there reportedly. So that isn't on him, but he did brandish a weapon in a road rage incident where the charges got dropped, but then they were said they could be picked back up, and everybody's out defending him like, oh, it got dropped. Like, people are so in defense mode about some of this stuff. It's weird how people want to defend every player, so aggressively, but then the charges were refiled. So we are still waiting how that's going to play out. But that'll probably get pushed through the entire season like Kamara's did. I mean, why not?
Yo, I just want to. It's Avi here. I'm gonna get out of here.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna go too. So let me get you all off the line here. Avi, final thoughts, bro?
I like how you brought up those rookie rankings. I think 3 through 10, you said any of those could be flip-flopped either way, and the top 2 are clear Gibbs and Bijan.
Yeah, it's a tier break, bro. It's my whole takeaway tonight, if anybody's going to take anything away from tonight's rankings, even if you completely disagree with how far down I've got Quentin Johnston, why I've got Charbonnet so high still, the one takeaway here is this tier break is thick, bro. This is a brick wall. Yep. This is a huge tier between these guys, and Zay could go down to Young's rank. Johnson could go up to 1 or to the 3 overall spot. JSN could go to the 3 overall. JSN could fall. Mingo could be the number 3 overall. Like, there's no Hyatt could be in the top 5 overall. In hindsight.
Yeah.
It's crazy to argue it in a way that you aren't leaving any room for someone else's argument. When people come in and say, how can you not have my player that I've already drafted in Dynasty higher than that? I've got Quentin Johnston in 5 leagues. You should be ashamed of yourself, Smitty. I just don't feel the vibe right now. I just don't. It doesn't mean it can't develop. I'm open-minded to it. I'm not calling him a bust. If he was a bust, he wouldn't be in my top 8. But I don't feel that he's ready yet.
Yep, I agree. I don't feel too strong with this rookie class besides the top 2. It's not like they can't be good, but I would honestly stay away outside the top 2. Maybe Zay, but that's it.
All right, bro. Appreciate you.
Yeah, have a good night.
Later. Ron, final thoughts? Or actually, let's go over to 623. Final thoughts?
I think something that we didn't talk about, I'll just make a point real quick. I think that Treylon Burks, Jahan Dotson, the second-year players, are probably going to break out this year. There was those teams, Tennessee and Washington, did not draft a wide receiver. So, those guys are probably going to be a steal in draft. Also, someone like Juju in New England, I think that he benefited pretty hard from the draft. I think that those are some late wide receivers to watch just from next year and going forward.
I like Dotson, but I'll be honest, and this is what's crazy about fantasy football is I don't like any of those other guys. I don't like Burks at all. I don't like Juju one single bit. I love Dotson though. I think Dotson's a good wide receiver, but I don't.
Real quick, do you like any of these rookie wide receivers in this draft better than Treylon Burks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
yes.
one?
All of them.
Okay.
Burks disappointed me so much. I would say if you gave me Burks and shoved him into this pool and you said, Smitty, where would you have ranked him? I wouldn't have put him above Hyatt, who was in the 10-11 spot, Kincaid in the 10-11 spot. I want Joshua Downs before I want Burks. I think Joshua Downs he's very good. He was once considered easily in the mix of the top 5 wide receivers, and I don't know why people don't love his landing spot more. He's in a great spot in Indy. That's a really.
I can't believe that he slid. I can't believe he slid in the draft. That was shocking to me.
Yeah, and I don't like Levis at all, bro. I really don't. I think he's a cocky, arrogant guy who puts mayonnaise in his coffee, and he just reeks of bust. He just reeks of bust. I can't see it. You know what You know, do you ever watch the movie Draft Day, which is a phenomenal movie, even though it's really kind of it's really cheesy in a lot of ways. I remember when I first saw Draft Day, and they're trying to find out who's the top guy, the top pick. What was his name? Cole.
No, it's Bo Callahan.
Bo Callahan, yeah. What a great name. Bo Callahan. I admit, when I first saw Draft Day, I thought how stupid it was when they're like, did anybody go to his birthday party? And it's they're trying to find some dirt on him, and they're like, nobody from the team went to his birthday party. And they're like, oh my God, we're not drafting Bo Callahan now. I remember I almost, even as much as I loved the movie now, I almost wanted to walk out at that moment. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. But what's crazy about that, as I've gotten older and gotten to know the NFL and the way GMs think, in Levis, a lot of that same Bo Callahan feel is what I kind of felt like the GMs felt about this guy, Levis. There was a lot of talk about he come with his short sleeve shirts to show off his guns, and how these NFL GMs and scouts are like, we don't ever want a guy with big old muscles being our quarterback. That's not the traditional way. There was all kinds of these Bo Callahan stories that I heard that triggered this movie, and I'm like, you know what? It wasn't that crazy the way that they broke that down, because GMs do think like that. What?
I also think that
Golf
Tennessee
became a member, exclusive member, just so you know, and he's saying good night.
Attaboy, Golf. Appreciate you becoming a YouTube exclusive member, my guy. Let me hit that moonshot for you. Thank you. Let me see if I have any other super chats at all. Okay, who was talking aside from Ron that wanted to say something real quick?
Sorry. I was just saying, I think that Tennessee also just has a really bad track record of drafting quarterbacks. It kind of branches from the New England tree of recent memory. I feel like they just draft a bunch of mid quarterbacks like Garoppolo and Stidham, Levis, Malik Willis. They just are not very good at evaluating quarterbacks. So yeah, I agree. It does hurt Burks somewhat, but I do think that he has no targets. So I do think at his ADP, I think Burks could be a potential flyer to take. Just for PPR receptions, he might get you 10 points every week.
Yeah, but you asked me where would I put, or I guess I kind of insinuated, where would I put him in here? I'd rather have Downs. I'd rather have Hyatt. I'd rather have Chase Brown. I'd rather have A-Chain. I'd rather have Anthony Richardson. Like I said, Hyatt, Kincaid. And so that's right here. Of course, I'd rather have these guys over him, but that puts him where? That puts him like outside the top 14, 15 overall if you throw him to this rookie class. And I know a lot of people like him, but I don't know. I think in best ball, if you scoop up Hyatt, you scoop up Joshua Downs, you scoop up Tank Dell right here, you scoop up all these guys, and you have a couple. You're gonna land one of those. That's a great wide receiver 4 combination. To have on your best ball for your wide receiver 4, 5, 6. And I've been finding Josh Downs, Hyatt, and Tank Dell all down in that territory. Garrett dropping a super chat. Garrett says, "Have a good night, Smitty, Judy, and Mike Williams to the moon." I love Garrett. Oh man, couldn't disagree more with that comment. But what's normal about that's par for the course. Mike Williams and Judy probably haven't drafted either one of those. I don't think I've drafted either one of those guys once in all the offseason best ball drafts we've done on Underdog. I don't think I own one share. Garrett. Oh, I love Garrett. All right, boys. 925 caller, do you have anything else, or is that George?
Yeah, a couple of things I wanted to get to, but I guess Steven's been hogging the airways, so I'm just gonna spit out this real quick. I think the chat kind of agreeing with me what I've been saying since the beginning of the show. Laporta is going to be a steal in Detroit. They don't really have a secure tight end lock, so drafting him, and he comes from Iowa, which is basically tight end George Kittle, you got Hawkinson came out of there, and he's going to a really good offense. I think Laporta is going to be a steal for tight ends, for the rookies at least. He'll probably finish, top 8 as a tight end overall. So I think he deserves to be on your list here with your top 12 rankings.
I can understand that.
And then the other thing I wanted to address was I think you got Richardson too high because there was a report, I guess the McAfee show or whatever. They interviewed Ballard, the GM from the Colts, and they're saying that he's going to sit for a while. So this is my conspiracy theory. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm thinking they're going to tank this season, and they're going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. next year.
They could, but I think you got a lot of draft capital there that you're going to damage and injure. Like JT, you can't, you don't support him. He's going to get hurt, and then what do you really have? So I think maybe they hope they get the one pick, but I think no matter what, Richardson's going to go in because of need. They're gonna.
Yeah, but I think Caleb Williams is going to go number 1 overall. Because quarterbacks always go high.
Yeah, true.
So Caleb Williams will go. So if they get like a 3, 4, or 5 pick, win 5 or 6 games, 4 games, something like that. If Gardner Minshew is going to be the quarterback for 6 or 7 games, how many games do you think they're going to win? 2?
Yeah, but I think you're right. Okay, so I hear what you're saying now, that they're going to start him off to get a back. Okay, I thought you meant Minshew was going to play the whole season. I'm like, Minshew can't play a whole season, so eventually Richardson's getting.
I think Richardson probably plays a little bit less than half of a season, because they're going to want to end the season strong with him getting some momentum going into next year. So he'll probably play 8 games.
I don't know. I think they want to win there very badly. I do. I personally believe that. But your theory is interesting for sure. And could it work? Could it work out that way? Maybe. But I have a feeling. My prediction is he starts week 1.
I still think that I would have Stroud around that 9-10 spot. I'd move Young up a little bit on your list. I think the Texans are going to be a team that's going to be, pretty sneaky. They'll probably win 7 games, 8 games, something like that. They're definitely going to have a better defense than last year with, Anderson. So they could win 7 games, and if Stroud just is a game manager, he could win some games. So I think Stroud's going to be somewhere in that 10-11 spot. Young's probably going to be the highest, like maybe 5 or 6. And I love Zay, love Gibbs, love Bijan, love Mingo. And when you look at this year's draft, I was so down on this year's draft for fantasy value because Like, I wanted these guys to go to better spots. And you look at last year's wide receiver class, like they all went to spots where those wide receivers came into a team where they're the number ones.
Yep.
You know, Olave, you got London, you know, so like I'm kind of leaning like, okay, I'm going to probably fade a few of these guys because, like I said, JSN, I'm not too sure about him. Zay, I'm not too sure about that offense, you know, but Mingo, he's my number one wide receiver straight up because he's coming into a spot with Young where, you know, the draft capital, second round pick, he's going to get targets. He's going to score. I mean, he's got no competition. Who they got? They got Thielen and Chark. That's nobody.
I can't disagree with you in liking Mingo way more than most. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see about the Anthony Richardson thing. I think he starts week 1, but that's me. But I can understand you wanting Stroud ahead of him. Like, look, Stroud's got a lot of upside. This whole ranking list, like if I did it tomorrow, it would be different by at least a couple players. You know, that's just the nature of evolving rankings where you're using a lot of gut mixed with, you know, a lot of other things. It's not just gut, but I'm just saying I don't go off of a spreadsheet I made one time like some people, and you're like, well, who's your number 4 wide receiver? And literally on some show, guy will just be looking at a spreadsheet like number 7 was like I'll literally spit it out. It's gonna be different every time, but everybody knows that about me, and so they're okay with it. Could Quentin Johnson rank ahead of Addison tomorrow for me? Absolutely. Could Quentin Johnson, if anybody's going to climb on this list of at least this top row, it's Johnson going ahead of Addison. That's how much I'm not into this Jordan Addison landing spot like everybody else, but I get why other people like it. I can understand it. If you told me to give a 5-paragraph essay and a presentation on why other people like Jordan Addison, I could do it in a heartbeat, and I could convincingly deploy that presentation like clockwork. Like, I understand what people are saying. But I'd just rather have Mingo. And I think that will become popular soon. I think now it's very crazy. I think a lot of people think it's insane right now. But I think it's going to become really trendy soon.
Yeah. All right. Well, last thing I'll say, and then I'll get off the phone, is I'm super high on who Arizona took. Michael Wilson. He's a stud. I watched him at Stanford right here in the Bay Area. You guys got a steal in the draft.
Yeah, he's another guy that should be on here in the conversation. I think Laporta should be. I think Wilson should be here. Who was the running back that I said? Yeah, he should be on here too. Who was that? I forget. But there's a lot of players. I had to stop putting pictures on the screen. I'm like, okay, I gotta.
Back from New Orleans, the one that went to New Orleans.
He's one of them, but not the one not the one I was thinking that I mentioned earlier.
All right, good night, guys.
All right, later, man.
Talk to you later.
All right, later. All right, guys, I'm going to hang up here. Ron, any final thoughts?
Well, yeah. I wanted to give my thoughts on the rookies.
All right.
Every year, we already know. I mean, going into this whole thing, I mean, we rank them how we like them and all this, but there's always one that we don't see, and they come out of nowhere, and then next year we're going to be talking about that guy. And that guy could be Tyler Scott going to Chicago. He has all that ability there with Fields as his quarterback. He has a good shot of being like that type of guy.
Yeah, I think he could. I mean, that's definitely a situation where there's not a lot of obstacles to get there. So if he is the guy you think he is, and you've liked him for a while, that's a good spot. Yeah. I think Tank Dell's got a great spot to climb from. That's kind of my deep pick. Yours has been Tyler Scott. He's in a good spot. Yeah, why not? I mean, he's probably going. I imagine he's going in the 3rd round in a rookie draft.
I mean, you could have, and it doesn't have to. It could be Hutchinson. It could be P. Washington from Penn State. It could be any of these receivers that just break out from nowhere, and then some of the guys that we're talking about now could end up being duds. I mean, it always happens every year. You can't be right on everything. And,
yep.
and I agree with George. I mean, I think Stroud. In my rankings, I got Stroud in there, and I kind of like where you got Charbonnet, and I understand exactly why you got Charbonnet there. But for me right now, he's not even in my top 10 because he's not a. He's a handcuff, right? So he gets his chance. So I mean, I was huge on Charbonnet. I was planning on even drafting him, hopefully in the dynasties, but now not really because Walker's there, and Walker's not gonna. I mean, as long as Walker stays healthy, Charbonnet has no chance.
Well, again,
So
make sure you guys are drafting him smartly. This is my end of the day. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't draft him here if I didn't need to.
No, I'm not saying draft at 5. I don't.
Yeah.
No, your ranking is how you draft them. Your ranking is how you view their talent.
Yeah.
And yeah, Charbonnet is definitely a high talented guy. But if I'm drafting, and I'm going to draft a lot of these guys before I draft Charbonnet simply because of like Mingo. Mingo I'm going to draft before Charbonnet. Addison I'm going to draft before Charbonnet. Young, his ADP right now, but when his ADP climbs, I'll probably, I'll draft him before Charbonnet. Zay, I draft him before Charbonnet right now, just because of their ability to do more and get more. They have more value right now than Charbonnet. So, but I understand how you ranked him. You ranked him on talent, and yeah, he deserves to be right there talent-wise. But as far as how I'm drafting him, it's completely different.
Yes, sir. Anything else,
That's
Ron? All right, bro.
No, I think that's the bit.
all
Remember,
right.
mine like a steel trap.
You're what?
Mine like a steel trap. See, I remember Dolph asking that question the other day, and I saw him and it sparked. I said I remembered that. So
Yep.
it's cool that you put that up there because he became a member right away.
Yep.
So
Appreciate it, Ron. Thank you.
later,
Later, pal. I think we
Later.
got a 949 caller still on the line there. Did you have one more thing you wanted to say? Who's this?
Yo, I'm so faded. I completely had something to say and completely just zoned out. But
No problem.
I was gonna ask you about Danny Dimes. I was gonna draft him. I wanted to draft him in my dynasty league, but he just got taken, so I'm a little bummed on that. And I don't have a QB yet, but I don't know, dude. I'm kind of fucked.
Well, go to sleep, bro. All right, later, pal.
All right, good night.
All right. Can't help with that, but I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you. Thank all 120 of you who are still in here. Punch that thumb up button. Can we get that 78 to at least go over 100? Appreciate 121 of you in here right now. Watch the show if you missed it. 2 hours and 15 minutes of goodness. The first 20 minutes is my mock draft in 2023 rookie-only rankings update post-NFL draft. It's a mock draft and ranking show, essentially. It's about 20-plus minutes at the beginning of this show, so please go back and watch it. Punch that thumb up button on the way out the door. And on that note, I'm going to leave you with the Mingo was his name-o. Let's go.
Mingo, and Mingo was his name-o.
Thank you all for the super chats. Whoever super chatted tonight, let me pull those up and give you guys recognition for all of your amazing generosity. Garrett dropping it. Harry Crumbs in the building dropping it. Fancy dropping it. Appreciate that. Aloha dropping it. Thank you. Ron Navy. Romez. Appreciate you, Romez. Love seeing you in here, pal. Ron Navy again. Austin dropping a super chat. Austin in the house. Appreciate Austin. Thanks everybody who became a YouTube exclusive member. Ada, thank you for becoming a member. I want to say Sam or somebody else became a member as well. So appreciate that. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks, George. Ada, have a good one. Travis, see you later. Peanut butter and waivers. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you being here. But I'll do it. No, don't take them at 5, drunk Squidward. I was telling you that's where I rank them, like in terms of like hindsight, what they'll produce. But you'll want to get them later because you can, broski. Please don't draft these guys any higher than you have to. Use my rankings as a a guide and then use the ADP to navigate. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like there's the treasure. The rankings are the treasure, but you still need the ADP roadmap, to get there. Peace out.
People are getting burrowed left and right, and people are going to remember it.
Get burrowed.
Punch that thumb up button, please. 86. We need it. We need 100. Punch it. Later.